THRACIAN 776. What the f does that mean? It's the 5th game in the Fire Emblem series, you know, the games where all the sword people in Smash are from, and it's the last directed by the original creator, Shozo Kaga. It's also, in my opinion, one of the best and most interesting strategy games ever made. They got really experimental with this one, and for the most part, I think they pull it off pretty well. This game's entire existence is weird. First off, it's a SNES game that came out in 1999, exclusive to the Nintendo Power Flash cartridge, which was some classic weird Nintendo shit they were cooking up at the time, where you could buy a blank RAM cartridge and then bring it to a select store of a Nintendo Power kiosk and select the game you wanted to copy onto your cartridge, and then the store would provide you with a printed copy of the manual. That last part begs the question, why? Why couldn't they just sell a printed copy of the game like normally? I mean, if they're gonna go for the trouble of printing out a user manual for the game, how much more of an issue would it have been for them to print out the game too? If you were a Japanese Fire Emblem fan in the 90s, which I know many of you are, this was the only way you would be able to get this game until the turn of the millennium, when it released in January of 2000. In fairness, you did get some cool shit if you went through the process of printing it yourself. All of this to say that this game came out for the SNES, a console released 9 years before it, 3 years after the Nintendo 64 came out, and you could see Mario's Baby Blues in 3D, and a little under 2 years before the GameCube came out, and you could see Mario's Baby Blues on vacation. Do I need to tell you this game didn't sell well? Imagine being a Japanese kid in the late 90s, when 3D games are starting to really kick up production, and some of the best games of all time are coming out. Meanwhile, you're stuck with this bullshit. Hey, Naruto-san, what's up? What'd you get for Christmas this year? Oh hey, Ash Ketchum-san, I got Metal Gear Solid and Resident Evil 3 and Final Fantasy 8. The PlayStation is freaking awesome. What'd you get? Oh, my dad took me to a select store to print out a copy of Fire Emblem THRACIAN 776 for my Super Nintendo. It just came out, by the way. Ash Ketchum-kun, I don't think we can hang out anymore. It ended up selling around 100,000 copies by 2002, which made it the worst-selling Fire Emblem game of all time. Wikipedia talks it up though, saying, "Oh, it was the best-selling SNES game during the year though." Yeah, no shit. It was the only one. Actually, there were a few Picross games in. Oh shit. This one's got Donkey Kong on it. Anyways, Kaga left Intelligent Systems shortly before the release of the game, and while I couldn't find any definitive answers on the reasons why he left, it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows behind closed doors, especially considering his last game was a passion project that released nearly 4 years too late, and the apparent animosity between Kaga and Nintendo after he left. All of these factors led to the game staying unknown to the world outside Japan for quite a long time, even after Marth and Roy were put in Melee and Fire Emblem was brought to the West. As of writing this video, there is still no official release of THRACIAN anywhere outside of Japan, and I wouldn't bet on that changing anytime soon. Outside of a remake, I would be shocked, maybe even awed, if this game ever saw a Western release. Until that fated day, we'll have to subsist with fan translations, with the first one being made in 2008. Unfortunately, and excuse my French here, it's dog shit. Most of the menus aren't translated and some of them look bugged out, some pretty common crashes, and the translator decided to add in their own jokes which really do not fit in with the game. In fairness, this was done for entirely free by a fan, was the only way people in the West could play without taking a Japanese course, but this was around the same time that the Mother Free fan localization came out. And that translation's really fucking good, and it's way longer, like, that shit's better than official. It wouldn't be until the late 2010s when new fan translations would come out and actually be good. I prefer the Little Manster localization personally, which came out in 2019. It's got a bunch of cool features like showing hidden stats and abilities, and being able to change the menu color. Hell yeah. Shout out to the team behind this localization, because it's really good. Okay, that's enough yapping about the historical context of this game or whatever. Let's dive in. Okay, one last addendum before we get into the game proper, but this game is actually a midquel to the previous Fire Emblem game, Genealogy of the Holy War. What's a midquel, I hear you ask? Well, you dumb bitch, it's like a sequel or a prequel, but instead of being before or after the original story, it takes place in the middle of it. I'm sure you could have figured that out yourself, but I get off on belittling my audience, so I really needed to do that. Sorry. Anyways, Genealogy takes place over 2 different generations, with a time skip of about 15 years, give or take, in between them. And THRACIAN 776 takes place just before the time skip ends, in, you guessed it, the year 776. While there's a holy war going on over the entire continent, we're going to ignore most of that and focus on the Thracian Peninsula, which used to consist of 2 nations, the Manster District and the Kingdom of Thracia. At the beginning of the time skip in 761, the Manster District is taken over by the Thracian Kingdom after General Rajik betrays him, However, Raedric pulls another quick one and betrays the Thracians to the Granville Empire, who had just finished taking over most of the continent outside of the Thracian Peninsula. Thracia is then forced to make an uneasy alliance with the Empire, who are definitely not evil as shit. We play as Leif, the heir to House Leonster, which is one of the 4 noble families that make up the Manster district. His parents are tragically killed in some fuck-ass desert by the Thracian Dragon Knights led by King Trevant of Thracia, which started the war I was just talking about. Because he's the last remaining heir to Leonster, he's been hunted down for most of his life, and he's been on run all over Thracia with his guardian Finn and fellow overthrown noble, Nanna. They eventually find their way to the small village of Fiana, which is under protection of a small militia known as the Fiana Freeblades, led by the swordswoman Ivel. Leif sees this shit and goes, "Fuck yeah," and joins with them. Now, enough backstory. While Leif and the Freeblades are out doing some vigilante work or something, Raedric shows up in search of Leif. He kidnaps Nanna and Ivel's daughter Marita to force the Freeblades to surrender. The Freeblades return, and upon seeing Imperial soldiers all over the village, start fighting to take their home back. Okay, we're finally getting into some gameplay, so let me explain how all this shit works. Every chapter takes place on a singular map where you have control of Leif and whatever characters he has with them, which I'm going to call units from now on, in blue. The chapter will always start on the player's turn, and during it you can give each of your units a command, either moving around, using items, or attacking enemies if they're within range. There's a couple other things they can do, but we'll get to that in time. Once all of your units have done their move, or enough of them have, you can end your turn. Then it's the enemy's turn, where they do the same shit you do, then back to your turn. Pretty simple, yeah? Let's talk about units. Every unit has unique stats, the main ones being HP, how much damage they can take, Strength, which affects how much damage physical attacks do, Magic, which affects magical damage and defense, Skill, which affects the hit rate, or how likely you are to hit when you attack, Speed, which affects a unit's ability to either hit the enemy multiple times or avoid being hit multiple times. If a unit has 4 more attack speed than the enemy, they'll double, which means they hit twice. Speed also affects a unit's ability to avoid an enemy attack. Luck affects your crit rate. A critical attack will double your base attack value. Luck also affects hit rate and dodge a little bit. Defense takes away from the enemy's attack value, and Constitution affects how heavy of weapons you can use. If the weapon you're using is heavier than your Constitution, it'll slow you down. It also affects rescuing and capturing, which we'll get into in a tiny bit. Every time a unit does a combat-related action, they gain XP. Once they hit 100, they'll level up and randomly gain stats based on their growth rates. Every unit has unique growth rates, and I'll show them when I talk about each unit. Growth rates add more personalization to each playthrough. I think they're cool. Those are the main face stats, but there's a lot more that goes into a unit's value beyond just their main stats. We started this chapter with 5 units. Leif, the main character. He's got shitty stats right now, but we're stuck with him, so we might as well try to make him good with investments. He also has a personal weapon, which is a weapon that only he can use. Duh. The Light Brand. It's a decent sword that uses magic at range and can also heal Leif at the cost of his turn. Finn, who's a horse owner, which gives him more movement and lets him move after attacking. He also has the Brave Lance, which is his personal weapon. It lets him attack twice in a row, and up to 4 times if he doubles the enemy. Wow. Halvin and Ocean are both axe fighters with decent stats. We'll get back to them in a second. Last but not least is Avel. She has incredible stats and is probably going to kill everything we see for a while, so use her as you may. We send everyone up towards the village, except for Ocean, who we send over to the right. Ooh, I wonder why. Curious. We see our first taste of combat, and man, I love how it looks in this game. Everything's so fluid and quick feeling. Shit rules. You can tell they've been working on this hardware for 9 years and know how to use it well. This is probably my favorite looking game on the SNES. I could watch this shit for hours, and I probably will. We move Finn up to an enemy and what's this? Capture. When your unit has a higher constitution level than the enemy, they're given the option to capture instead of a normal attack. Capturing lowers your stats, but will allow you to take hold of the enemy if you defeat them in combat. When you're holding an enemy, you're then free to take all of their items and then release them, functionally the same as killing them. In most Fire Emblem games, you play as a rich lord or a rich lord's vaguely homosexual friend, so money isn't often too much of an issue. Hell, villagers usually give you gold in the thousands. Not in Thracia though. Leif is broke as shit. So then how do we get new equipment for our gang? We steal shit out here. We will rob your short lance. Finn sure as hell needs his lance too, because his brave lance is only good for 60 hits. And we want to save those hits for some enemies with a little meat on their bones. Not these wimps. We continue clearing out the Imperial dogs from the village when suddenly we have some reinforcements show up for us. a couple other members of the Freeblades. Dagdar is a more tanky version of Ivil. He probably won't dodge everything the same way Ivil does, but with his 43 health, he'll probably be fine. Tanya is an archer, which means she can only attack enemies when she's 2 spaces away from them, and it also means she's likely to only attack in player phase. Don't expect much from her, especially with stats like these. And finally, we have Marty, and he has stats. Marty is the definition of a joke character, and I mean, it's pretty funny. Once Ocean kills the guy guarding the southern house, we send him inside to talk to his dad, I think? It's not ever explained who this guy is, but the reason we sent Ocean over here was so we could get his personal axe, the Vooj. I didn't want to talk about Ocean before because of this. This axe makes Ocean fucking amazing. He can use it both up close and at range, and it's a crit rate of 30. You're probably thinking, okay, it sounds pretty good. I mean, getting a 30% chance to crit is nice, but no! You're wrong. It's not 30%, it's 90. If you look up here, you can see that Ocean has an FCM of 3. What do those letters mean? Follow-up critical modifiers, or a fuck 'em. When Ocean does a double attack, his follow-up attack will have 3 times the crit rate of what it says down there, meaning if he has at least 34% crit, he will be guaranteed the crit on the second hit. He also has the personal skill, Wrath, which means that whenever an enemy initiates combat with him, his first retaliation will always be a crit. With both this and his fuck 'em, he's almost always gonna crit. This makes him one of the best fighters in the game. We capture and steal a couple more lances for Finn, and some vulneraries, which function as full heals in this game. And then we send Halvin to his house, where his little sister gives him the Brave Axe. The Brave Axe functions very similarly to Finn's Brave Lance. However, it's not locked to Halvin, meaning anyone who knows how to use an axe can use it. If this was Halvin's personal weapon, he'd probably be pretty close to Ocean in usefulness, but he can't. Sad. We pick up a life ring from this house, which gives plus 7 HP to a unit that we use it on. Nice. Then, it's time to take on the boss. Using Avel's Fire Sword to go through the boss's high defense stat, because Fire Sword uses magic. He goes down 1 round, and the village is free once more. Once Lee finds that Nana and Marita are missing, he resolves to head north to Manster to take him back from Raedric. While chasing Raedric north, the Freeblades wander upon the small coastal village of Ease. We overhear some shit from this guy who's wearing clothes way too nice to be hanging out with these pirates. Turns out he wants to meet up with Leaf, and he's got a benefactor? He's definitely up to some shit. Leaf and the gang see the pirates raiding the village and have no choice but to come to their aid. We need to act pretty fast here, as these barbarians are different from Imperial soldiers in the fact that they'll burn down and destroy the houses if we don't get to them before they do. We send most of our forces east to deal with the main threat, but send Tanya and Marty north to get the houses up there before the pirates in the northeast can get them. We make sure to capture as many of these guys as we can, because a lot of them are carrying vulneraries, and we want that shit. Visiting the houses up here gets us a speed ring, which gives a unit 2 speed, and Ronan, respectively. Ronan is an archer like Tanya, but he's a bit more interesting. I haven't mentioned this yet, but some units have these things called movement stars. For every movement star a unit has, they have a 5% chance to move again when they end their turn. Ronan has 3 of these, meaning there's a 15% chance for him to have 2 turns in 1 turn. That's a lot of turns. He also has a 55% growth rate in magic, which is pretty funny because he can't use magic at all. He can only use bows, and there aren't any magic bows in this game, so he's just really magical for no fucking reason. He'll probably get killed in 1 or 2 hits, but if you want to use him, you can. He's really fun with his eccentricities. I love when he misses 2 shots in a row, gets a movement star proc, and then misses again. Shit rules. We sent Ocean down to the south so he can get some kills for experience against these pirates, and give the rings we've gotten to Leaf so he's less squishy. We also have him hide behind Finn and get a few kills with Lightbrand. Trust me, I wouldn't be babying Leaf so much if it wasn't necessary. It's going to be very important sooner than later that he's able to hold his own in combat. We sent Avel to go kill the boss again, but she misses for a while, which is kind of funny. It's here I remember I can turn on the ability to view HP on the map, which I do because it's really fucking useful. Avel gets a crit on the boss and then a fuck-ass level up where she doesn't increase any stats. I always think it's funny whenever this happens, where a portrait just kind of sits there for a while, waiting for the points on the right to increase, but they never do. Leaf and Ocean get a few more kills before Leaf takes the manor and ends the chapter. Once we do, we meet up with that Augustus guy from the beginning of the chapter, and he's all like, "Hey, what's up, man? I can take you to the Pirates Island base so you can stop him for good." Leaf questions how he knows this, and Augustus goes, "I'm the Joker, baby. I got many tricks." Apparently this is good enough for Leaf, and we're off to the Corsair Islands. Wait, hold on a minute. 2x? Shouldn't this be 3? Did I forget how to count, or is this chapter an algebraic expression? Neither. This is the first side quest in the game. In some chapters, if you complete a side objective, which is sometimes clear and sometimes very, very vague, if you complete the previous chapter without having any of the houses raided by pirates, you go to 2x instead of 3. We see the leader of the pirates, Lyphis, absolutely fumbling trying to get with his priestess that he has held captive. She keeps talking about rebellion against the Empire, and how the city of Tahra is the last remaining place in the continent not under control, and how the fate of the world relies on their ability to resist the Empire and their dark god Loptis. While she's saying all of this, Lyphis is thinking purely with his dick and gives in to her demands immediately to fight the Empire for a sliver of a chance of a date with her. Meanwhile, Leaf and the Freeblades land on the Corsair Isles right as night approaches. Motherfucker! Meanwhile, Leaf and the Freeblades land on the Corsair. Motherfucker! Really? Meanwhile, Leaf and the Freeblades land on the Corsair Isles right as night approaches, which means we have a Fog of War map. Fog of War maps have become a staple in Fire Emblem, and they started off here. Usually you're able to see the map terrain though, and it just covers enemy positions. In Thracia, however, pure void. You are not going to see shit here unless it is directly in front of you. The only way to counteract this is to find and use a torch, which isn't something we have right now. I guess we couldn't find any coal in the last 2 villages. Augustus says there might be some torches laying on the beach or something. You might think now that we have Augustus we can use him as a unit, but no, he actually functions as an advisor to Leaf. He gives an authority star to Leaf, which represents how good strategically your army is. Each authority star gives a flat free bonus to every unit's hit rate and avoid, no matter where they are on the map. Ivel and Finn both already have one, so Augustus brings us a free. Not bad. From the cutscene in the beginning, we can sort of tell where the boss is, towards the top right. We send most of our troops there, but we're a bit slower because of the terrain. Sand is slow here, so sit back, open a cold one, and enjoy the nice starless sky. While we do that, Dagdar and a few others will go to the left to explore the rest of the island, and maybe find a torch or 2 we could use. Leaf can talk to Ivel here, and she hints that we should try to capture Lyphis alive, because scum like him don't deserve a swift death. Okay, noted. Don't get on Ivel's bad side. Speak of the devil, Lyphis is speaking to his boys and reveals he was just trolling her, and they're not actually going to go fight the Empire. In fact, they're going to come fight us. Them coming to fight us mostly consists of dumbass pirates killing themselves on Ivel, but nevertheless. We end up capturing this big guy who has steel weapons, which are heavier, stronger versions of the iron weapons, and a torch on him. Nice. How's the other squad doing right now? Oh. Leaf uses the torch, which finally gives us a bit of vision, and would you look at that? Ronan finds another torch in a fort just as we use ours. A bit late, but I can't really complain about getting free shit, I guess. We clear through this island with no problem at all and get some captures too, but uh-oh, an enemy who Ivel doesn't kill in 1 round. These sword fighters are a little scary because of their speed, but as long as you aren't charging in with 0 thoughts in your head, you're probably fine. I set up a defensive line with Finn and Ivel and let them come to me. After they die, I send Leaf to the front so we can see, and all that's left is Lyphis and his edgy sellsword, Shiva. Shiva is pretty nonchalant though, so he won't fight us unless we come at him first. This is the first example in a bit of an unwritten rule. If an enemy has a portrait and they aren't a boss, we'll probably become your friend later. So we're gonna leave unofficial future friend Shiva alone and capture Lyphis. He doesn't have any weapons, so we can just freely send Finn up there to capture with no struggle required. You can take a shit if you want, but this next part is important. Do not release him. If you release him here, he's gone forever. You need to end this chapter with him in your custody. We take the pirates fort and find the priestess they captured, whose name is Safi. Turns out Safi had actually met Leaf before when he was hiding in Tahra. She tells about how things went to shit after Leaf left, and both the Empire and the Kingdom of Thracia are threatening to conquer the city-state. She also mentioned something about child hunts. She was sent out to look for any soldiers or mercenaries, or really anyone, who would come to Tahra's defense. Leaf pledges his support after saving Nana and Marita first. Safi joins us, and also convinces Leaf to let Lyphis join to redeem himself. Lifus, upon being given a second chance, plans to book it as soon as he can. After our little detour, Leif continues northward and reaches Kerberos Gate, the entrance to Manster. The streets call this gate impenetrable, but I'm 3-0 in battles right now, so I'm feeling pretty confident about this one. We arrive just in time to snoop on Raedric, where he asks if the cattle are being collected on time, while we see what appears to be children in the middle of the fort. Raedric tells his goons to keep them in the prison until the Lopter Church comes to collect them, and then mentions a rebel group called the Magi. A lot of vocab terms we're learning today. I guess this is the child hunt that Safi was talking about earlier. Augustus corroborates this and then gets Leif up to speed. It's official Empire policy to collect children aged 7 to 13 and bring them to Valhalla, the capital where, after atrocities are wrought upon them, the ones who survive are never the same. They are children no more. They begin life anew as servants to the dark god, Loptis. Kerberos Gate is a distribution center for the Manster district, so Leif decides he needs to free them. Augustus needs to go. He's got an appointment or whatever, but he leaves a few pieces of advice. The children have been traumatized and need to be carried back to the village, and horses aren't allowed to go inside buildings. It's just proper manners. That last part kind of kills the tone from the whole child hunt thing that was going on, but thanks, I guess. Augustus also reveals that he knew Leif was the heir to Leonster the whole time before he slips away. Oh, okay, a bit of a bombshell to drop before leaving, but sure, see you later, man. We've got 2 new units, so let's go over them first. Safi is a priestess, which means she can only use staves and not attack in traditional ways. She comes with a heal staff which, believe it or not, can heal her allies, along with her personal staff, the Hammer'n staff, which allows her to repair any broken weapon or item you have. This is super duper useful, so please, please, please do not waste this on your iron sword or your hammer or whatever. You've only got 5 charges on it, so you gotta be super mindful on what you decide to use it on. If you look over here, you can see her weapon ranks. This shows both what weapon type she's allowed to use and what rank in each type she has. As I said earlier, she can only use staves. She has a C rank in them. Ranks go from E to A, meaning she can only use pretty basic and intermediate ones right now. Weapon ranks rise by using said weapon, and I bring it up with Safi because it is very important that you get her weapon rank up as soon as possible. She's only 10 points away from B, and 50 points from A after that, so try to heal with her as much as possible. Let's get over to Lifus. He's a thief, which means 2 things. He can steal shit, and he can lockpick shit. He can steal any item from enemies as long as he's faster than the enemy, and the item he's stealing has a lower constitution than him. More importantly is the lockpicking ability. There are lots of doors and chests in this game, and the main way to get them open is through lockpicks. There's some keys, but it's usually more efficient and easier to have a thief. Lifus also had a Crusader scroll on him when we captured him. This does 2 things. It completely protects whoever is holding it from getting hit by a critical. It also affects for growth rates, often buffing a few select stat growths by some pretty hefty percents. I'd recommend passing this around on whichever units you want to use long term. I'm going to hand it off to Ocean here and let him deal with the soldiers to the left, while the main force advances to the gate. These soldiers are pretty weak, and most of them have 0 attack speed because of their heavy ass lances. Only real guy we gotta watch out for is this mage over here. Outside of just using our strongest units, we don't really have a reliable way to deal with magical enemies yet, with most of our units not having more than a point or 2 in magic. I end up capturing the guy within because I wanted his nice, juicy firebook. Ronan misses a shot, which then gives him enough experience to level up, where he then procs a movement level up. I didn't mention this to add a tiny bit of brevity to the stat talk earlier, but units have a small chance to level up their movement too, allowing them to move farther in a turn. This is unique to Thracia, and a mechanic I really like. It adds a lot of variance to your units in between runs. For example, a Marty in one run might get a movement level, and that can make you want to use him, when otherwise you would put him in the trash immediately. Ronan already had 7 movement at base because the devs were very funny when they coded him, so now he has 8. That's the same as Finn. He's on a horse. We easily break through the outside defense and have life as lockpicks inside. We send in a small force consisting of Leif and the Axe brothers, while our units with good movement work on getting children back home. Units are able to give a rescue child to another unit who still has return, so you can set up some pretty big rescue chains to get him home fast. Finn's obviously not allowed inside, so he's the main star of this rescue operation, but Ronan's no slouch either with his huge fucking legs. After the goons are gone, we send Lifus in to open those chests at the back of the fort, because this fucker right here will make a break for it and try to steal a chest before we can once we get close enough. This is unacceptable. And hey, while we're here, let's take his shit too. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this earlier, but heals can actually miss in this game. This is the only game in the franchise where it happens, and it is really fucking funny. Until someone dies because of it. But until that happens to me, funny. The The hit rate for staves is invisible, but the formula isn't that complicated and 10 skill gives you 100% hit rate. When you rescue the children, you need to take them to the right home. The residents will tell you the name of the child and you can work it out from there. Get a shield ring, raising the fence, and another Crusader scroll from 2 of the houses, and 2 promises of fortune in the future. There better be. I just saved your kid from dying or becoming a dark cultist or whatever. Give me a vase or something, man. Operating a militia is expensive. Do you know how much Marty has to eat to maintain that physique? Some barbarians approach from the west, but they don't really have enough time to do any damage. We're wrapping up here. The boss is no match for Dagdar's hammer, which is super effective against armored units, and we have Leif take the throne. Just as we start breaking out the champagne, Raedric appears from the shadows to threaten Nana in front of Leif, forcing him to surrender. Well shit, guess I'm 3-1 now. Most of our troops get away, vowing to return for Leif, except for Ivel, who lets herself get captured as well to look after Leif from the inside. And Leifus, who no one liked enough to help retreat. Raedric takes Ivel to the arena so he can celebrate, where he promises her she can see the girls. So we're stuck with Leif, and Leifus of all people. Great. And then suddenly, the Magi appear. They're a rebel group we heard Raedric complain about last chapter, and they've infiltrated Manster to save the children captured here. Their leader Sed charges ahead to find the children, and we take control of the free Magi left to free the prisoners here. Brian leads his group and he's an axe knight, which means he should be mounted. However, as this map is indoors, he's forced to be on foot, uses a sword instead of his signature axe. Not ideal, but beggars can't be choosers, and at least he's got Wrath and a steel sword. Matcha is a sword fighter. She's a much lower leveled and unpromoted version of Ivel, but she does have the personal skill advantage, meaning that whenever an enemy attacks her, she attacks first instead of the enemy. This can make her pretty useful in enemy phase, especially if she's trained up. Lara is the group's thief. She's going to be the main one opening doors and chests until we find Leifus' lockpick. She's a lot more frail than Leifus, who already didn't have much meat on his bones, so keep her out of enemy range. When you load this chapter, it randomly sorts all of Leif and Leifus' inventories into the 4 storage rooms, so it's important to bring only the most important shit along with you. Which I did last chapter, but conceal it for dramatic effect with the power of editing. That's right, you thought I instantly seized the throne after Dagdar killed that guy, but no! I spent a turn or two shuffling inventories around. You'll never see reality, only what I choose to show you. No wait, don't click off, I'll get back to the game. Once we end the first turn, Leif talks to his cellmates, and it turns out they got thrown in a slammer for some bullshit reasons too. Some soldiers were allegedly harassing this woman, so Fergus here stepped in and started beating one to death. The rest of the soldiers do not like this. Fergus goes to sleep, and the other prisoner tells Leif her name, Karen. Leif immediately assumes she's a foreigner upon hearing this, and it turns out she's from Selyse, which is all the way over here, and she came south of Thracia to look for the runaway prince of Selyse, Sed. Selyse got overthrown by the Empire a while ago, so the Selyse resistance was looking for Sed to act as a figurehead, but right now he's a little preoccupied in his crusade against the child hunts. She also mentioned that she's a Pegasus Knight. Good to know if we find our way outside. In the other cell, Leifus gets recognized by these goons. Guess he's pretty popular in the pillaging scene. He convinces them that he's going to get broken out any second now, and the goons readily believe this. Then when it actually happens, they become die-hard Leifus loyalists and charge into battle against any guard they see. For some reason they have axes on them. I'm not really sure why or how they were able to keep their axes when they got imprisoned, but whatever. Matcha has a chest key on her, so once I cleared a path for Lara to free Leif, I send her and Leifus to the closest storage room to start getting our shit back. I'm really looking for the lockpick we had so we can get through all this as fast as possible, as reinforcements will start showing up once everyone's free. The guards are pretty weak on their own, but 20 of them is a different story. Once Leif's cell is open, Fergus gives a little exposition about this map type. This is a new objective added to Thracia, Escape. In order to complete the map, Leif must get to the flashing arrow on the floor. Same as seizing a throne, right? Wrong. Whenever Leif reaches the escape point, any unit still on the map will be counted as captured, and they'll be lost to you for essentially the rest of the game. You need to have Leif escape last if you don't want anyone captured. There is one way to get captured units back, but it's going to be a while before we see it, so it's better to try not to lose your army where you can. Anyways, with everyone out of their cells, we pass some spare swords around and get to work. Well, mostly everyone. If you recall, when a unit is carrying another unit, they'll have lower stats. And if a unit has no weapons, they'll get automatically captured. You see where I'm going with this here? We can use our units who are weaker indoors, like Karen, to bait a capture from the enemy so they're weaker when we fight them. We call this capture baiting. We just need to be sure that we can actually kill the enemy when they have our ally captured, because if they can make it to an escape point, we'll escape with our friend in tow. Although most enemies here should get killed in one round, doubly so when they've captured someone. Triply so if you're attacking them with Fergus. Remember how I was singing Ocean's praises because he had an FCM of 3? This guy has a 5. We just need to get Fergus a 20% crit rate and he will always crit. And oh, he has a support bonus of Karen that gives 10 crit. And a sword that only Leaf and Fergus have a high enough sword ring to use. Would you believe it? Gives 10 crit. I think you see where I'm going with this. We're going to let the brigands do most of the work while we can though, and focus on clearing out all the chests and doing this chapter's side objective, rescuing the civilians. Alongside escaping and reclaiming our shit, we also need to free and escort these guys out of here. This chapter really expects everything from us, huh? Unlike the kids in the last chapter, the prisoners here can walk. However, they can be captured by soldiers who will appear at the points where the prisoners are trying to escape to. So you really gotta watch over them, because even if one gets captured and taken away, boom, side objective failed. Sometimes the brigands will try to capture soldiers, which is really funny because they don't do anything with them. They'll just keep carrying them forever. They can use vulnerable areas if they capture a soldier with them, so that's kinda nice, but they'll have the capturing debuff for the rest of the map. So long, green boys. Once we got all of our shit back and escort all the prisoners out of here, we're gonna get everyone to the top of the map, right in front of this door. This game's thrown a few curveballs our way, but nothing has been outright unfair or bullshit yet. This door changes things. Once we open it up, we find a full squadron of armored knights, mages, and healers. This is one of the few times in the game where you can't see what's behind a door until you open it, so the developers definitely wanted you to have an oh shit moment here. I really hope most of your units still have returns when you open this door. Now, these troops alone might not be too big of a problem, especially with the Armor Slayer and the Rapier we found here that are both super effective against armored units. However, those reinforcements from the south never stopped. If you take the time to loot all the chests and free the civilians, there's going to be a fair amount of soldiers behind you too. We're stuck in between a rock and a hard place here. There is one ray of salvation though, Dawson. Because we saved all those kids in the last chapter, Leaf is able to talk to the captain of this armored division and convince him to defect once he hears the Empire tried to abduct his little brother. Dawson has high defense, so he can take a lot of physical hits from the armored squad here. You just need to worry about the mages with him. Having Leaf go talk to him will unfortunately expose him as well, and end his turn. But if you give him the life and shield rings, he should be able to take a blow or two, and his voice should be high enough to have him reliably live for the first turn. Just make sure you have some units holding your back line, and unless you get really unlucky, you should survive the first turn in this corridor. Now that the exit is available, the new goal is to defeat enough of the northern forces to allow everyone to get to the exit as fast as we can. Dawson should be able to one-shot the mages, while Fergus can take out the armored knights with a crit. Leaf's light brand uses magic at range, so he can do significant damage to them too. I wouldn't recommend letting any other of your units get too exposed besides those three. I like to have Matcha and Bright and hold the back line. With a few clutch dodges, we're able to clear most of the room and everyone makes a break for it. All of our units have unique escape lines, which gives everyone a nice little bit of characterization. I like it. Once Leaf makes his escape, it's revealed that the leaders of a Lobster cult and the crown prince and princess of the Empire were just big chilling inside the room that the prison surrounds. Sure, okay. They yap about the child hunts for a bit, and Princess Ishtar demands that they stop. Prince Julius responds with his rationale. The ones who survive will turn into a new supreme ruling class, empowered and hardened by the hardships forced upon them. Ishtar still opposes it, but then they go out in the back and fuck. Young love, I guess. Yeah, we got another side quest. If you save all the civilians in the last chapter, we end up here first instead of chapter 5. Not entirely sure why. Maybe they told us to come here to rescue these kids? Yeah, that's probably it. We see Sed and his apprentice, Asbel, chat about these kids they're gonna save, and then Sed mentions Leaf, and Asbel reveals he had been looking for Leaf for the past 3 years. Sed says, hey, go join him, he's probably breaking out of here right now anyways. They plan to reunite here in Manster and cut back to Leaf. There are a lot of armor knights and mages right in front of us. You can't see them because of the fog of war, but trust me, they're there. We want to make a defensive line of our strongest units and have them come to us, because if we go out in this hallway, we will be attacked from all 3 sides. Even with this defensive formation, we take a fair amount of damage. I wonder how Sed's doing up there. Oh, after a lot of math and weighing options and probability, we're able to break for the enemy lines, and we have our thieves break the kids out of jail. Luckily, the exit is a lot closer to the jail cells than the last chapter, so they don't really need much of an escort. I'm more pressed on saving all those poor guards from Sed and Asbel's war crimes. Unfortunately, all the guards are completely lifeless by the time we make it up there, so we have Leaf talk to Asbel, where he had thought Leaf had abandoned him after they were besties in Tahra and wanted to take down the Empire together. Leaf says, no man, I was being chased by the authorities, you didn't want the smoke. where Asbel then goes, "Shut up! I wanted the smoke. I love the smoke. I will live and die for you, brother." And then he joins our team. Now, compared to Sed over there, Asbel might not look like much, maybe even a coughing baby. But trust me when I say this, he is the strongest character in this game. He takes a little bit to start snowballing, but once he gets some levels in him, genuinely nothing will stand in his way. His personal spell, Graph Caliber, does a fuck ton of damage, has a really high hit rate, and will almost always guarantee a crit with Asbel's free fuck 'em. Not only that, it's magic. Most bosses will have a high defense stat that will be boosted by the terrain that they're on. Gates and Thrones will add 10 defense and 30 avoid. The Graph Caliber makes these almost entirely null. The only issue Asbel has is his survivability. And would you look at that? There's a life ring in this chapter to solve that issue for us. We also find the Brave Sword, which we gave to Fergus, and we get the Sed scroll when we talk to Sed with Karen, which is kind of like an autograph. I know it's a Crusader scroll, and Sed just has the same name as the Crusader, but I can't help but imagine Sed writing his name on it himself before giving it to us. Sed's gonna stick around in Manster and keep freeing kids and nuking soldiers, so we'll see him later, I guess. We end up stealing this Thunder Tome so we're not wasting all of the Graph Caliber's uses while raising up Asbel, and make our way out of here. Alright, that side quest was a nice change of pace. Hopefully this next chapter will be a short one too. We switch perspectives to Ivel, who reunites with Nana in the middle of Raedric's arena. Nana says she doesn't know where Merida is, and Ivel gets pissed at Raedric for lying to her. And then gladiators flood the arena, with Raedric demanding a show before Ivel can see her daughter. These guys are pretty strong, almost on par with Ivel, so make sure Nana is protected by her, or she's probably going to die in a hit or two. Nana does have a unique sword that can sap HP from enemies, but she's more suited to healing, especially now when she's alone with Ivel. She also has the ability Charm, which improves hit rate and avoid for all allies within free spaces. Nice to have right behind the front lines. We cut back to Leaf's group and have to race to the arena's entrance to save Ivel and Nana. Well, sort of race. We're gonna have Asbel go to the specific space with the Sed scroll so we can level him up against these mages that shouldn't be able to damage him much. We send Leaf there too for a support bonus. The enemies ahead of our main force are tough, but divided into smaller squads where we shouldn't have too much trouble dealing with them in one turn as long as we play it smart. While she's waiting for our main force to arrive, we'll have Ivel and Nana put themselves right in front of the entrance so we can reach them quicker. Life can steal from mages pretty easily, and then they're good fodder for Asbel to gain experience. War crime? A little bit, but I'm pretty sure the Empire has us beat there by a lot, so I don't see too much harm in it, you know? The little guy should be allowed to do a couple war crimes at least. While I'm talking about armed robbery, these healers are great targets too. We can get a heal staff, a key, a pure water, which raises your magic stat, for essentially free. We just need Ivel to live a little longer, and she's pretty strong. I doubt she'll have any issues fighting these chumps, especially with Nana healing her. Oh, that might be a problem. Raedric has given Merida a cursed blade, which has brainwashed her to want to kill everything in sight. No matter what she does, Ivel can't get Merida to snap out of it, and she refuses to swing her sword at her child. Okay, maybe we should stop with the war crimes and pick up the pace a little bit. Luckily, there's still a tiny bit of humanity inside Merida, and she refuses to finish off Ivel, creating a stalemate long enough, just in time for us to reach the door. Once it's open, Leaf will automatically walk up to Nana to assist. Raedric, upon seeing this, has a temper tantrum and has his bald friend teleport Ivel to them, and uses the spell Petrify on her, turning her into a stone statue. Before we can even think about saving Ivel, we'll need to save ourselves from the guards and pit fighters that are nearby. We're a bit ganked right now, with the pit fighters below us and a squad of guards above us, but using Leaf as a wall, we're able to survive the enemy's turn and turn things around with Leaf using the light brand to heal himself, while Asbel attacks him from afar, and the rest of the gang deals to soldiers. After Nana is safe and the gladiators are dealt with, this chapter becomes a bit of a slog. As you may have noticed from the design, we need to walk all the way around this O-shaped hallway, and once we save Nana, there's no incentive to be quick about it. The remaining enemies here don't make it interesting either, with most of them just standing still until you're within range, so it boils down to a few more engagements with several turns of walking in between. There's also this chest all the way in the bottom right that a thief needs to go all the way around here to get, then go all the way back. It's pretty long. There is a boss here, but he's not on any special terrain, so Fergus can probably take care of him in one round with the Armor Slayer. And if not, Asbel doesn't mind helping. These dark mages guarding this chest might look kinda scary, but if you got Asbel enough levels in this chapter, he will cut through with no difficulty. He didn't even get hit here. Ooh, look at the big scary dark magic. Strong wind! It only took one chapter to make this guy this strong, by the way. He's that nuts. We loot these last chests and get our asses out of here. Oh hey, it's Augustus. He says he was planning our escape, but I'm not really sure what he was going to do all by himself. I'm pretty sure he just so happened to be in town and wanted us to think that he's cool. It worked, by the way. I do think he's cool. This conversation with Augustus is one of my favorite parts of the game, so I'm going to let it speak for itself.
I've never hated the Empire more than I do in this moment, Augustus. My parents were snatched from this world because of the Empire's actions, and now it has taken the only person I have known to be my mother. Raedric is little more than their hand, committing untold evil at their behest. Augustus, show me how to wage war against them. I'll do anything to get her back. Just tell me what I need to do.
Lady Ivel was turned to stone by some foul magic, you say. If that is indeed the case, you must accept that she is gone, Prince Leaf.
That's nonsense. Utter nonsense.
Is it? What do you call utter nonsense, the state of our world? Do you doubt how much power Leonster Church holds? Look around you. In the Thracian Peninsula alone, thousands, no, tens of thousands of children have been seized and sent to Belhalla. In places where the church's influence runs strong, places like your native Leonster, or this very city, they possess near total authority. In these areas, you'll see nary a single child still free.
Do parents feel nothing when their children are stolen from them? Why aren't they fighting this?
Of course the people fight this. They resist however they can, not just in Manster, but everywhere the Empire has dominion. But they're simple folk, with no real weapons. They can never match the might of the Imperial Army, let alone the Leonster Church. Any who do try are arrested and executed, at best. The Church doesn't merely execute rebels, they burn everyone in their village at the stake. From all this, the men and women of Jugdral have lost their will to fight. They are little more than slaves now. Make no mistake, the Dark Age is upon us again. THRACIAN needs a hero to rally behind. Someone who will reinvigorate the people's will to fight and assemble them into an army. Call such heroism whatever you like. Whether through bravery or ingenuity, you must rise above the obstacles before you. Prince Leaf, you carry the blood of both Quan and Eflin. Their strengths, their deeds, live on in you. Do you realize what that means? If the heir to House Leonster will raise an army, all those in North Thracia who oppose the Empire will unite behind him. If such a thing were to occur, perhaps, just perhaps, the Empire and the Loptrians could be driven from Thracia. Augustus might be my favorite character in the entire Fire Emblem franchise. Pragmatic, principled, bald, just a perfect mentor for Leaf, and a great vehicle for Kaga to very subtly shove the themes of the game down your throat. And then Karen comes in and says, hey, I can fly, let's just fly out of here. It's a pretty good suggestion. We're finally outside, so all of our mounted units are allowed to get back on their horses, which makes them way better. There's two ways to go for this chapter. Either A, you use Karen to ferry your army across the city walls undetected, or B, fuck it we ball, fuck it we ball, fuck it we ball, fuck it we ball, fuck it we. Saving the kids in 4X gives you rewards for visiting certain houses here, and I didn't save those brats for nothing. We're gonna have most of my army go for the eastern portion of the city, visit the buildings we can over there, then have Karen and our other mounted units travel through the western half and quickly visit everything, then escape before a majority of that scary army can reach us. We're also gonna buy Karen a lance so she can actually fight while mounted. While we're doing all of this, back in Castle Manster, we see this mysterious man, apparently named Galzus, work with his bishop to teleport Marita away from the castle. Galzus apparently recognizes her, but that's all we get from that scene. We have Fergus lead our charge, and that alerts the Manster army to our location. With our mounts though, we should be able to outpace them. In the center house, we're able to recruit fan favorite character Hicks. It's Hicks, everybody! He's finally here! It's Hicks! I dropped something. Hicks is an axe knight like Raiden, but he's a little worse. Raiden has Wrath where Hicks has nothing, but right now there's no cost to using him, so you might as well. He also comes with a poleaxe, an axe that's super effective against cavalry. We're gonna want this in a minute, so keep that in mind. Our plan goes pretty smoothly. We have our units on foot go to the right while our cavalry fights in the center of the city. Brian does get a little close to dying, but he ended up fine. We also used Dawson and Leaf as bait to take some of the heat for our cavalry. But it works better than I thought it would, and takes all the heat off our cavalry. Cool. I do a little bit extra here because I thought we needed a thief to open up the main gate, but no, the townspeople are nice enough to open it for us once we approach. Thanks, old man. With that, we've gotten all our rewards for saving the kids, and we're out of here. Not home free yet, though. Raedric sends his army after us under the command of General Eisenhower? Leaf and the gang flee southward away from Manster, but there's a problem. He doesn't just have one bald man after him, but two. Augustus recommends two strategies for us. Either go westward into the mountains or go straight south to Castle Neath. Either way, He tells Leif to ask for protection from Thracia. Leif refuses due to that whole murdering his entire family thing that they did, but Augustus forces him to see reason, turning his "no hardship I would be unwilling to endure" against him. Even if Thracia is allies with the Empire on paper, tensions are high considering what the Empire has done to every other neighbor it had, and there's only so many ways Thracia would respond to an army advancing towards them. Leif obliges. We take a look southward and see that Raedric has also hired sellswords to stop us, with our old pal Shiva amongst them. Now, as Augustus said, there's a few ways to approach this battle, but I'm going to do something he didn't recommend. Instead of running, we're going to fight the army approaching us head on. This might sound crazy, but I think it's preferable to either getting off our horses so we can run through the mountains for an hour, or getting sandwiched in between the sellswords and the invaders. Besides, Shiva's down there and we don't want to accidentally kill him. Like I said, future friend. We start by using one of the goodies we got in the last chapter, a Master Seal on Fergus. The Master Seal allows any of our units to promote upon reaching level 10, where they change classes to a higher ranked class, which gives them some upgraded stats, weapon ranks, sometimes even movement. We're promoting Fergus now so we can better stand a chance against the army we're about to fight. And we get another one this chapter anyways by visiting his house, where his girl tries to flirt with us. Sorry babe, duty calls. While we set up our ambush, we hear down in me from General Hannibal's perspective that they've got a few people they believe to be bandits, except a knight was with them and escaped. We then cut to Finn, presumably the knight that was just mentioned, who's hanging out with Safi. He's looking for Leif, while Safi refuses to leave him as she believes in Leif's ability to save Tahra. We're gonna send Finn and Safi to the south, as if you remember, Safi and Shiva have met before, so she's the one who needs to recruit him. The Manster army arrives under Eisenhower's lead, and they begin their assault. 3 cavaliers will spawn in at the top of the map each turn until we kill Eisenhower, so we have Asbel take a shot at the egghead on the first turn he's here. With the head of the serpent cut off, we're free to march south without having to worry about our rear. Finn needs to fight most of the sellswords before Safi can reach Shiva, but it shouldn't be much of a problem for him. I'm more worried about him accidentally killing Shiva than dying himself. Luckily, my worries are unfounded, as Safi's able to talk to Shiva before he can start attacking us, and she convinces him to join. Shiva is decent in combat, but in a world where we have so many units who are outstanding at it, he doesn't impress me that much. If you like him, I'm sure you'll have no problems using him in your army, but I'm just gonna take his sword and let him warm the bench for me. We have everyone enter Castle Meath, and we are officially safe from Raedric's sledges, for now at least. Once we enter, Leif cleverly gives himself a false identity to fool Hannibal. Lou. Hannibal sees through this for M1 and lets us stay and rest a bit until we're to head west to Tahra. He also frees the supposed bandits mentioned earlier, who are actually Ocean, Halvin, and Ronan. He also gives us a guide to get us through the mountain, Knight Callian. Man, this Hannibal's not half bad. I guess there's some moral complexity within the Thracian kingdom, or maybe he understands that as we weaken the Empire, Thracia will strengthen in comparison. Either way, no complaining here. But wait, there's one more thing. It turns out back in chapter 3, one of those kids we saved was actually Hannibal's son. Small world, huh? He gives us the most important item in the entire game, the warp staff. We're not going to be seeing this in action for a little bit, but keep it in the back of your mind. Warp staff. Warp staff. Warp staff. Callian guides Leif and the group through the mountains until we reach a village that looks like it's being ransacked, so we get ready to rally in their defense. This chapter introduces 2 super important mechanics. First, the preparation menu. The preparation menu allows us to choose what units we want to bring into battle, swap items around, and even buy a few basic items. From here on out, we're no longer able to field our entire army in battle, and instead have to pick a select few. Every chapter has a minimum and maximum amount you're allowed to bring, and this might have you think, this is simple. I will just bring my strongest units to each chapter. You're wrong. Also introduced in this chapter is fatigue. Anytime any unit gets into a round of combat or uses a stave, they will gain a point of fatigue. Once a unit has more fatigue than their maximum HP, they will not be able to be deployed in the next chapter. The only ways to reduce fatigue are to have a unit sit out for a chapter or give them a stamina drink, which is a rare and expensive item. I like this feature a lot. It forces you to mix up your army in a way you don't really need to in other Fire Emblems. Combining this with the more unique map types and the indoor-outdoor distinctions makes it so you can't craft a perfect team that'll carry you throughout every map. Anyways, most of our friends we made in Manster are beyond tired right now, so this gives us a good chance to deploy some of our old friends and see what they've been up to. I end up taking this squad, with only Bryden remaining from the Manster team. Oh yeah, Leif can't get fatigued, main character syndrome or whatever. Once we have our preparations ready, Callian reveals to us before a fight that he's not actually just here to guide Leif, he's here to join him. Hannibal and Callian both recognize Leif immediately, and Callian reveals he was actually born to a knight of Leonster. Hannibal took him in during the war alongside a bunch of other children from Leonster. The rest of them are in Hannibal's mountain villa, where they've been trained to become knights under Dryas, a general of Leonster who fought a battle against the Empire to allow Leif to escape. Augustus interrupts us by reminding Leif of the bandits currently raising the village, and mentions that it's Dagdar's gang. Huh, thought he gave up that life. Guess we'll need to knock some sense into him. This chapter's a bit of a throwback. Not only do we have most of our old gang back, but we're fighting some shitty barbarians again. Feels like we're back in Fiana, except we've got Callian with us now, yay! Callian is a cavalier, and feels unleashed by being the first unit we have that can use 2 different types of weapons, except for Dagdar, but he can use bows, so that barely counts. His base stats and weapon rank are pretty shit. However, he starts at level 1 and he's got pretty good growth rates, so he has a lot of potential to train and get XP quickly, especially with this next chapter. There's also a specific item coming up pretty soon that'll help with that. He's got a fuck him of 4-2, so that's always nice. He's not a great unit by any means, but we have enough resources to be able to train at least one shitter. After ending our first turn, we hear a mini conversation on the other side of the map. Sounds like this guy is some commander who's been hired to guard the entrance to his manor while this guy does something. Something weird's going on here. I don't know why, but everyone decided to miss during this battle. Ocean missed, Ronan missed, Callian missed, fucking Safi missed. I wanted this to be a stomp, but I guess I didn't get the memo that we were going to sandbag against these guys. I don't know who on my team is trying to do some match fixing, and I also didn't know DraftKings had a section for my Thracia battles, but I'm going to put a stop to this shit. We make our way halfway through town and... oh shit. Is that Marty? Thankfully Halvin misses and he lives. Then we have Ocean talk to him where he tries to ignore us until he gives in and admits that it was Gomez's idea, whoever that is, and then rejoins our group. Nice to have you back, bud. I needed a punching bag, and bullying, Shiva just wouldn't be the same. After rescuing the villages here, we get a couple of cool items. Namely another Master Seal and a Luck Ring. We don't have much time to daddle here though. A fun thing this chapter doesn't tell you at all is that there's a side quest here. You're probably thinking, oh, we gotta save the villages, right? No. What you need to do is get to the boss and capture him within 10 turns. Otherwise, he will get on his mount, which is a fucking wyvern by the way, and we won't be able to capture him. There's nothing that gives you a hint about this, besides maybe a cutscene in turn 2, but come on, that doesn't give you shit. I think we can sufficiently add this to the bullshit counter. After more than a few failed attempts, we're able to weaken him down enough as to where Finn can reliably capture him in one round. Finn actually gets a crit here, which would have been really nice a few attempts ago, but whatever. He's captured. Make sure you don't release him, by the way. Like Lifeis, we need him in our clutches. Feel free to take his shit though, he's got some nice weapons and a Master Seal. After capturing the manor entrance, Leif talks to Lefraud and sees the Thracian coat of arms on his chest. Leif gives him the chance to live if he answers a few questions. Lefraud refuses at first, but Leif has this nice moment where he reflects on how he was just in Lefraud's situation, forced into accepting help from his enemy. This gets through to Lefraud and he spills about how Dagdar was betrayed by his number 2, Gomez, and he's in there right now trying to kill him and Tanya. Leif lets him live and we go inside. We enter Dagdar's house and shit, it's dark in here. I guess Gomez unplugged the generator before he set his plan off, clever bastard. We're only allowed to bring between 4 and 6 units, so I end up taking this squad. I bring Fergus along even though he won't be on his horse, just because he's that good at this point. I give Asbel one of the Master Seals we got in the last chapter, and I give Ocean all these scrolls, so he hopefully gets a lot of stats here. I also give Lifeis this torch because I need him to do more than just open doors and shit for me at this point. We start the chapter and Dagdar and Tanya are surrounded. So Dagdar tries talking sense into Gomez, but Gomez is pissed off that everyone in the gang is starving because no one's allowed to go raiding and pillaging anymore. I know pillage and murder is bad and all, but I do kinda see Gomez's point. Sure, they shouldn't be stealing from villagers who already have so little, but if they do nothing, they're just gonna starve. Gomez says the mountainous terrain is not good enough to be farmed, so there's not much choice here besides moving somewhere else. I love you, Dagdar, but you really aren't good at this whole bandit leader thing. Dagdar and Tanya start in the middle of the manor, super far away from us, so we're gonna need to survive for a while. I put Tanya in a corner and have Dagdar black her off, so she can only get hit once per turn. And with all these vulneraries I gave to her at the end of chapter 3, she should be fine for a little bit. Dagdar, on the other hand, is in a bit of a scarier situation, specifically because of the cost, which can tend to get him to bite a bit more than he can chew. He's 100% stronger than all the bandits that'll come for him, but with enough bad luck he can be killed by 100 cuts. Meanwhile, with our main squad, we promote Asbel and holy shit, I have awakened a monster. He can also use staffs now, so that's kinda nice. We split our squad in half and have them go through these long ass hallways that go almost around the entire house before we get to the main rooms. Real interesting house planning here, but I guess it's traditional Thracian or something. Dagdar finishes off all the bandits attacking him, so I just have him hang out until the rest of the squad gets to him. Which doesn't take that long, none of these guys can really stand up to us. I accidentally put Ocean in a spot where he kills a metric shit ton of archers who are just hanging out in the dark, so that's kinda funny. I do kind of accidentally almost kill Dagdar, but he gets the most clutch defense level up of all time right before he goes into another round of combat, where he gets hit, even put down the 1 HP. Holy shit. 10% chance, by the way, not counting all the other attacks he dodged that turn. With that miracle, I'm able to take out the rest of the bandits in this group with little problem and head into the throne room, which I guess Dagdar had. Real interesting guy. In case you're curious why I promoted Asbel this chapter, this is why. Gomez without Asbel is one of the hardest bosses in the game, if not the hardest. High damage, hit rate, speed, defense, avoid, the works. Even Asbel doesn't have it easy against this guy. At max speed, Asbel can't double him, and the Graf Caliber, which has had 99 hit rate against virtually every other enemy in the game, has 47 here. He's got a bow too, so you'll need a rescue drop Asbel if you don't want to risk him dying. While we're suffering for all this horse shit, Lifus steals all these items, most importantly the leg ring, which can give a unit 2 extra movement, probably the best consumable in the game. After putting down the rebellion, Leif discusses it with Augustus. Kinda rhymes. Augustus backs up Gomez's claim that the land was infertile, and that they became bandits out of necessity. Leif calls them cowards, but Augustus retorts that he's never felt hunger. Even while hiding his whole life, he never had to worry about where his next meal would come from. Augustus calls him an out-of-touch coastal elite, and it informs Leif on how southern Thracia is so mountainous that farming is just not sustainable. For every person fed, 2 go hungry. Leif goes, "Ooh, but what about international trade, globalism, ooh?" In the chat, Augustus talks about the trade blockade that the Manster district put on Thracia due to a war between the two 100 years ago. Animosity and resent still persist between the two kingdoms, even if one being conquered by the Empire. Augustus ends the discussion by telling Leif to learn from these mistakes in petty politics, if he is to rule his people in a way that matters differently from the Empire. Leif reaches the mountain range around Hannibal's villa, but uh-oh, there's another army here too. Thracian army's here, led by King Travant and his daughter of all people. They came here to hunt down some bandits that have been harassing the area, and they mistake us and the residents of the villa for them. I'm pretty sure we just dealt with those bandits for you, and this is the thanks we get? What happened to southern hospitality? Travant talks about how Free Thracia needs both the north and south to survive, and how he longs to unite them before leaving this battle to his subordinate, Murloc. Leif and the gang now need to race to the villa to rescue them before the Thracian army can trample them, killing any hope of a revival of the Leonster army. This is an escape map, so Leif needs to enter the villa to complete it. But there's an addendum. If any enemy gets to the escape point, then the battle is lost, so we need the villa to hold. There's 2 ways for our main army to reach the villa. Either go south with cavalry and help to beat them there before they can reach the villa, or have our infantry march through the shitty terrain to the west to try and reach the villa before the Thracians do. What are we gonna do? Both. We deploy a majority of cavalry and send them south to fight. However, we also deploy Karen and Dagdar. Karen to fly Leif to the villa as quick as possible, and Dagdar so he can hopefully be a good tank and last while the cavalry charges the Thracians from behind. Meanwhile, at the villa itself, we have the Scrub Squad. These guys are all kinds of dog shit, with the exception of Selfina, who is just okay. None of these guys are even worth talking about, except for Selfina, who's only relevant because of her high bow rank, which gives her niche utility against flyers, and the fact she can get a couple unique weapons for us later. She's also got a Master Seal on her for extra incentive to keep her alive. The Scrub Squad needs to defend the manor until we can get our main army there, so I like to have most of them dismount so they can stand on mountains for extra defense and avoid. The door to the manor also gives a ton of defense and avoid, so put someone there too. Thracian army starts marching, and we see a few problems we're gonna have to deal with. These Wyvern riders are pretty strong, especially Murloc, who could probably one-round most of our units, including our strong cavalry. This bishop's annoying too. He's got meteor and can fuck up our cavaliers, who probably don't have high magic. He ended up being a paper tiger though, and our cavalry easily dismantled him and his armor knights, setting them up for an easy flank on the main army. Murloc is right at the villa's doorstep and is ready to start shredding away the Scrub Squad, but Kane gets a miracle dodge, keeping him alive for one more turn. With that, we're able to hit him with all of our bows, and he dies, leaving only 1 Wyvern rider left. Selfina almost dies to him, and as mentioned, she's the only part of the Scrub Squad that kinda matters, so I'm forced to make a hard decision. I switch Robert and Selfina's places, so they target Robert instead of her. This unfortunately gets Robert killed, so let's have a mini funeral for our first lost soldier. While all this happened, my cavalry utterly destroyed their back line and won the battle for us. We have Callian talk to Selfina, and she gives him the Paragon Sword, that super special item I mentioned earlier, which gives the wielder of it the skill Paragon, doubling their XP gain. It also gives the wielder 5 defense, so it's pretty fucking good. It's not a personal weapon, anyone who knows what a sword is can use it, but I like to keep it on Callian. It fits with his high growth rates, and it makes it so you don't have to waste a Paragon manual if you want to train him. Leif reunites with Dorius, who had lost an arm while creating that diversion for Leif, so he's not a playable unit here. He's an advisor like Augustus. With Leif's forces and the trainees of the villa, Dorius decides that they have enough of an army to go support Tahra, but they need to deal with the Thracians still outside. Luckily, Hannibal has sent a message to the army that he owns the villa and that we're people he hired to get rid of the bandits. Thanks, Hannibal. Bit awkward that we decimated the army before he could save it, but oh well, sometimes blood's gotta spill. The Fiana Freeblades, the Magi, and the Leonster nobility merged together to create the Liberation Army, with their first mission being to free Tahra. Unfortunately, there's still a few mountains and forts in the way we'll need to deal with first. We're on the border of Thracia and the Empire, and we're gonna need to break through Fort Noel here. This chapter introduces something of an iconic gimmick of Thracia: ballistas. Stationary archers that can shoot at far ranges, usually up to 10 or 15 spaces away. Get used to seeing these, all of the time. If it's an outdoor map, there's a pretty good chance there's going to be ballistas there. This battle is going to be pretty big, so make sure to bring your best troops today, and a ton of them. This is my squad going in. We start the map and see 2 cavaliers enter the fort. We've got 2 Empire dogs here, Olwen and Fred, who were apparently forced by General Kempf to do reconnaissance, grunt work. Turns out Olwen is the sister of Kemp's rival general, Reinhardt, and this is how he punishes her for it. General Largo here is pretty chill though, and he lets them hang out for a while before they need to return. Back to Leif's side, Dorius recommends not directly confronting the army and attacking the ballista directly. We're gonna listen to his sage advice. First, we're gonna capture his armor knight for both his flame sword and his bridge key. This item unlocks bridges, believe it or not. We're gonna have Karen fly a few units across this river and send a few cavalry to each ballista that's reachable for some hit and run tactics. A lot of these fuckers are on mountain tiles though, so don't count on them dying reliably in one turn. Make sure you visit this specific house to the north quickly. It gives you a rescue staff, which is a super important staff we're gonna need later. If you take too long, this thief here will burn the house down, so show me a little hustle. After the garrison spots us, Olwen and Fred will beg to join the battle to help out Largo. They won't do much though. They're just gonna stand around for a while before getting bored and leaving. We're gonna have Asbel and Ocean head to the south and use the bridge key we got from the knight to have them take out the southern ballistas, while Leif uses the light brand to take out the center one. Fergus gets a bit close to death here after taking the northern ballista out, but he ends up fine. With most of the ballistas taken out, we're free to engage the main force, and using the armor slayer, they go down without too much trouble. Asbel doesn't even need the Graf caliber to take this guy out. I actually just wanted Asbel to weaken him, but he procced to depth, so he died and I missed out on a free Master Seal. With that, the valley is ours, and we're free to continue onwards towards Tahra. Unfortunately, those 2 knights who got away will alert the enemies ahead, so they'll be prepared for us. With their preparations and natural defenses, our next battle is going to be a tough one. Breaking through the lines, we officially make our way into Empire territory and set our sights on Fort Dundrum, a fort we need to take in order to make it to Tahra, lest we risk being flanked from behind. This is another big battle, and a hybrid inside and outside fight, so try to bring the best of both worlds on that front. There's also a lot of doors in this map, so if you have any door keys laying around somewhere, now would be a good time to bring them. We start the chapter and we witness an argument between Olwen and Kempf. Olwen's begging for him to send reinforcements to go help Largo, but Kempf is being a jackass and refuses. He also goads Olwen into attacking him by insulting her brother and has her imprisoned. Man, kind of a jerk. He then forces Fred to lead the defense against us and mentions a plan about luring us into the central courtyard. Joke's on him, I was gonna go in there anyways. I start by giving Leif the leg ring we got a few chapters ago, and slowly move our troops through this forest. It's a real choke point. Good thing Kempf isn't sending his troops out to attack us. He could have set up a serious defensive position here. Kempf's outside guard is made up of weak soldiers and a few archers. Shouldn't be a problem at all, especially with the terrain in our favor. Once we get to the fort's entrance, we're gonna do some hanky-panky and send in a few cavaliers at a time and try and capture some of the armor knights. Some of them have door keys on them, and we're gonna need some door keys. Make sure you don't enter the courtyard with Leif though. That'll trigger whatever Kempf's plan is. Fred won't attack us until we get in range. Looks like he's quiet quitting. Zoomers, am I right? After the courtyard is cleared out besides Fred, I move in Leif, which brings Kempf's trap. He closes the doors around us and reveals 2 ballista that are super hard to reach, ready to shoot at us like fish in a barrel. Fred's disgusted at this cowardly plan. He's one of those honor above all else types, and calls a truce with us, becoming green. This is why we wanted all those door keys. Leifus will probably get one-shot by a ballista, so unless we really want to tempt fate here, he needs to stay a safe distance away. Speaking of one-shot, now that Fred is neutral, the ballistas will fire at him, and if both hit, they can kill him in one turn. Fred needs to survive in order to unlock the side quest here, so that's cool. Fred won't move at all, and he's in range of both ballistas. Unless you want to have someone who the AI thinks looks more juicy than Fred, the only way you can affect his survival is by ending the chapter quickly. Once we attack Kempf, he'll teleport away on his turn, leaving the throne undefended. We capture a mage and finish the chapter before Fred dies. Augustus says, hey, we should go in the basement to go free some kids. And that's exactly what we do. It's dark down here. This is another indoor map, obviously, so we're going to bring our infantry and a torch or two for the light. Kempf goes to his subordinate, this bishop named Olthoff, and says, hey, can you hold them off while I run away? Also, you're so gonna die, Lamau, you're fucked, dude. By the way, can you kill this prisoner for me? And Olthoff responds, yes, sir. Meanwhile, Olin's in prison with a bunch of children, and they call her an Empire dog and other mean names, and she realizes the child hunts weren't a joke, and she's actually been helping carry out this atrocity. Oops, she was just following orders. Now that she's seen what her work has done firsthand, Olin resolves to at the very least save these kids. Alright, this chapter's kind of ass. We need to get through the famous murder holes here, or we're gonna get poked at by like a million archers and mages. We want to send our units that have ranged options in first, so Lifus can get through alive and start opening doors. Using a torch, we're able to see the full hallway and where the boss is. We're about to take out about half the range units in the first turn and dodge a meteor from the boss. Look who's coming to the rescue. It's Fred. As we saw from the last chapter, he's a mounted unit, so he's at a bit of a disadvantage in this map, but he's still pretty good. Being pre-promoter and having an A-ranked swords. Definitely a good filler combat unit, just don't expect him to take out armies by himself. Fred needs to hurry here because the guards will try to discreetly take out Olwen if we don't get to her in time. He starts off his career in our army with a strong showing by getting a crit off on this guard, and it looks cool as shit. On turn 3, we take out everyone in the murder holes, and Fred saves Olin from the guards, getting another crit. Past this, there's not too much to worry about in this chapter, besides the boss's meteor tome which can attack from 10 tiles away, but besides that we're all Gucci. Fred talks to Olin and she starts questioning her entire life. Then Fred convinces her to join Leif's army. She turns blue. Olin's a mounted unit like Fred, so she's a little nerfed here. Just a little though, her stats aren't that great mounted either. She's pretty squishy with only 24 HP and 4 defense, so she's in trouble if she's fighting someone who can fight back. She is pretty good on player phrase though. With her personal weapon, the Dire Thunder, which can attack twice in a row like a brave weapon, and a Fakuma 4, she can one-round most non-magical enemies, and she's only 20 points from an A rank in Thunder Magic, which lets her use the long-range bolting tome. I think Olin's pretty fun, and she's vaguely important to the story, so I like to keep her around, but she's kinda mediocre. I have half our squad escort the children out of the fort so we can get some goodies next chapter. But while this happens, the boss will try to use Meteor on the kids. What the fuck, man? The kids. You don't need to launch meteors at them! After a few resets worth of this bullshit, I decided to just take him out early with Asbel, even though I wanted to capture him and steal his shit. I've seen too many child's bodies get immediately incinerated by magic drone strikes today. I can't take anymore. We steal a couple wind tomes from these mages and end the chapter. Dorius talks about how Tahra is the last remaining holdout against total imperial domination over the continent, and how they're sending their best troops to take it out, including the Gelben Ritter, an elite corps of mage knights led by the general Reinhardt, who Dorius has to admit is a damned fine warrior. This makes Augustus lose his shit about how someone who is helping with the child hunts and the return of the dark god Loptis could ever be praised, before Olin jumps in to defend her honorable brother, who could do no wrong and is also just following orders, and Leif allows her to join. Augustus tells her to take a good hard look at what the Empire has done here, see them for what they truly are. With Fort Dungeon behind us, the Liberation Army is free to continue marching to Tahra, with just a Dacian forest in between them and the city. Unfortunately, this forest is infested with bandits. Bit of a common theme in this peninsula. Bandits everywhere. I bring a mix of cavalry and infantry, alongside Safi and Karen for utility. We overhear a conversation between these Salem and Pern characters. Salem seems to be an ex-member of the Lobster cult, escaping after no longer agreeing with the church's actions, while Pern is the leader of a group of bandits that don't kill and only steal from the rich, Robin Hood type beat. Pern's looking to abandon most of his group because a bunch of the more aggressive type of bandits have joined, and I guess he's scared of them or something because he'd rather run than confront them. So much for being the leader of them. Anyways, he tries to get Salem and a few others to go with him. Salem says he'll consider it and continues his watch, saying he'll use his sleep staff to stop any who dare to pass by. We hear another conversation, this time between Marita and the bishop who warped her away. Looks like the bishop found a way to save her and uncurse her sword. He gives her a nice little speech. With that, he leaves. Nice guy. Back to our army now. It's dark here too. We're gonna have both visibility and movement problems here due to the woods. This affects mounted units more than infantry here, so consider getting them off their horses. We need to visit a few houses before the bandits can get to them, so we have Karen and Fergus rush to the south, while our main force goes northwest to try and go around the woods as much as we can. Ah shit, Salem uses that sleep staff we heard about earlier on Ocean, which makes him completely unusable, either until the chapter ends or if we heal him with a restore staff, which are in limited supply. I choose to let Ocean sleep through this one. Starting on turn 2, we gain control of Marita. On first glance, you're probably thinking, damn, this bitch sucks. And you'd be right. On the surface, this is perfect bench material. However, she has a few things that save her. 1. Her personal weapon, creatively named Merita's Sword, is pretty strong and gives her a Nihil, which nullifies all enemy combat skills. She also has the skill Luna, which gives her a skill % chance to ignore all defense. She also has a rare Fuck 'em of 5, which means she's almost always going to be critting. She's got great growth rates too, making her a pretty good candidate for a Paragon manual. A bit more effort and resources are needed than I'd like to get her off the ground, but if you do, she can be really impactful. She's all the way to the southwest of this map, separated from the rest of our army, so she is able to get quite a few kills for herself to try and get an early start. Fergus gets slapped on this turn, and he gets captured, which sucks a lot, because now we need to capture the enemy holding him in order to get all his shit back. Owen's able to do it, but not having Fergus is going to be pretty annoying, especially when we look at this mini-boss. He's the guy that made Pern shit his pants earlier. He's not the biggest wall of meat we're going to see, but not having our strongest combat units will make this a bit tricky. We do have Asbel though. He should decimate him, but capturing him would be worth our while, because he's carrying the Accost manual on him. We overhear another conversation over the manor. Real chatty bandit group, I guess. This little girl Tina brings Salem some cookies, and they talk about her sister Safi. Hey, I know a Safi. Must be a popular name. We have Karen carry Olin across the lake so she can visit the house that Marita was in, so we can get a magic ring. Olin specifically has to be the one to visit so she can reunite with this little girl she rescued in the last chapter. I try for a while to capture the mini-boss, but I get frustrated after he keeps healing and moving the mountain tiles, and I just have Asbel obliterate him. Our crew makes it to the manor, and make sure you capture Salem here, and keep him held. We have Fred do so with the Brave Sword. Before we end the chapter, we promote Safi here so she can get A-rank staves. You'll see why in just a moment. We win the battle, and Doria says, hey, let's go through this house and get rid of these thieves and also steal their shit, LMAO. Leaf and Marita also reunite, and resolve to save Ivel together. That's sweet. Okay, this chapter is straight up bad. It might be my least favorite chapter in the game, which is why I'm gonna skip it. But how? I hear you say. Now that Safi has A-rank staves, she's able to use the most powerful item in the game, the Warp Staff. The Warp Staff in this game has infinite range, allowing you to send any unit to any point on the map. I think you can see why this is useful. We can warp Asbel and Leaf to the end of most non-escape maps and finish them in one turn, so that's pretty cool. I'm not going to skip most maps because I want to show him off for his playthrough, but you can forgive me for skipping just one, right? Right? Salem says that Pern's a reasonable guy, and he should be able to talk him into joining with us. Sounds great. Lara, go do that. Yeah, we're bringing Lara of all people to this chapter. She has a past with Pern, and we specifically want her to be the one that talks to him. You'll see why in a second. Let's talk about Salem first though. He joins us from the start of this chapter, and I forgot to give him his shit back. Because we captured him at the end of the last map, we have Salem as a new playable unit. He's the first playable dark magic user in the series. Wow. That gives him a bit of a niche, but the more important part of him is his C rank and staves, making him your second best staff user you have right now, unless you've been super training Nana. He has a sleep staff on him too, but it's probably broken due to the events of the last chapter, so unless you want to use a hammer and charge on it, don't count on using one of these for a while. I'm certainly not gonna. He also has a bit of an accuracy problem with his skill stats, so keep that in mind. He's a great backup staff user if Safi is tired or dead. I like him. We have Safi warp Laura in front of Pern, and they talk about how Lara used to dance for him. Pern makes it very clear that it was not at all in a sexual way once he found out Lara was a kid. Nice save, Pern. Oh god, he's talking about how invigorated it made him feel. Never mind. This conversation both recruits Pern and also has Lara promoted to a dancer, which lowers most of her stats strangely enough. This might sound like insanity to you if you haven't played Fire Emblem before, but dancers are actually super important units. Dancers have a unique command, Dance, go figure, which allows a unit beside them to refresh their turn and perform another action. This is super useful, giving your best units a second turn for free in one turn, maybe even 3 turns if they proc a movement star. Wow, ooh. Dancing also has great synergy with the Warp Staff, allowing us to warp 2 units in one turn. Anyways, let's talk about Pern now. He's a better version of Lifus, he's got better stats, some unique skills, 5 fuck 'em and 5 movement stars. Sounds great, right? The only issue I have of him is that he's fucking weird. Not only does he have a strange relationship with Lara, who's like 14 or something, he's kidnapped Tina over here, and at first it's implied that he's abusing her, until it's revealed he's just been holding caterpillars and worms and shit up to her face because she's scared of bugs. I'm glad he's not abusing the child he kidnapped, but he still kidnapped a child. She's like 8. Come on, man. Oh yeah, he's also got the Kingmaker on him, which gives a charm skill to whoever's holding it. We're gonna give it to Leaf so he can be a better support for our units, and so we don't have to deal with Pern. Once Pern is recruited, all the enemies on the map will start retreating, so that's nice. Leaf can freely walk to the throne and end the chapter without any blood being shed. Before we do that, we are going to have our thieves loot the shit out of this place, of course. Once Safi reaches the throne room, we can recruit Tina. Tina is the child that Prince kidnapped, and if we take a look at her inventory, we can find out why. Tina has 2 personal staves, Thief and Unlock. She's able to freely unlock anything on the map, and steal from anyone on the map as long as she has more magic. Just a bit of a problem with that. In order for her to steal most things we want, we're going to need to either train her or use Ensorcel or Pure Water. She also has a skill of 1, meaning she's going to miss all the time, which makes her 5 movement stars pretty funny. A lot of times she'll be trying to steal something, she misses, procs a movement star, tries again, misses again. Hell yeah. We didn't see him because he started retreating as soon as we recruited Pern, but we also could have recruited the swordsman Trude here. We're not missing much, he's just a worse Shiva in my opinion, but for all the real Trude heads out there, I made a little tribute to him for you. Before we finish this map, in a truly baffling game design decision, we actually want to wait 30 turns here. If you don't kill or capture any of the enemy dancers, on turn 25 and 30, 2 dancer reinforcements will show up. The first carrying a Master Seal, and the second carrying a Wharf Staff. What the fuck? This feels like the Fire Emblem version of a secret dev path in a Mario Maker level. I truly do not understand the reasoning behind this. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing in the game that tells you about this. I'm not sure how anyone found out about this in the first place. THRACIAN, everybody. We captured a throne with Leaf, and finally leave this fuck-ass forest. Tahra is finally within eyesight. We've made it. A little bit late though, the Imperial Army's here too, and they're about to start their assault. This general says, "Alright, just chill out a bit. Our main force is almost here." But this guy, looking for glory, demands to charge now, so we've got to hurry to relieve Tahra. We deploy full cavalry outside of Leaf and get ready to charge. Ballistas be damned. We give Fergus the Vantage manual we got last chapter, which lets him attack first all the time, even when the enemies initiate combat. With Leaf's Kingmaker and Nana's Charm, we should have a pretty good chance to dodge ballistas. While our main force charges to their aid, on the other side of the map, we have Glade. Glade is the leader of the Tahran resistance force, and we're giving control of him and his few remaining nameless knights. These knights won't join your army after this chapter, so don't worry too much about keeping them alive. Glade's pretty good. He's a Duke Knight like Finn, and has an A rank in lances. His stats are just alright though, and he only has a fuckum of 1, but his class and weapon rank carry him to being pretty good. He also has an authority star, and gives Selfina the Brave Bow when you talk to him with her, so those are some nice bonuses. We're gonna have Glade stay on the gate, and have the rest of the Tahran troops hang out in front of him, and hope they don't die. The Empire reaches Tahra pretty quickly, and it doesn't look too good for our defenders. They hold on, but at pretty low health. The troops our main squad have to deal with aren't that scary, only the ballistas should concern us. Tahra gets overrun pretty quickly, and we have our knights retreat and leave Glade alone. He can hold the gate, but not forever, so it's still important we get our squad there quickly. The Imperial Army is fully at Tahra's gate. However, their commander is exposed from the back, so we have Fergus get in there with an armor slayer to secure a kill on him. Once the commander is dead, the forces he commanded will start running. It might seem like the battle is ours, but reinforcements will still come in from the north and west, and they'll still fight us. We have Selfina talk to Glade, who's her husband by the way, I don't know if I mentioned that, and he gives her the Brave Bow after they talk about how much Leaf has grown. We have everyone enter Tahra, and it stands independent for at least one more day. The Duchess of Tahra, Lenoan, meets us inside, where Leaf declares to her that they'll lay their lives down for Tahra's defense if necessary. Okay. This is probably the hardest chapter in the game so far. We need to defend Tahra for 10 turns from the onslaught of the Empire, and it really is an onslaught. They're gonna send the toughest troops they've got at us, and they have a ton of ballistas set up around the city as well. Things are gonna get tough. It's also long as shit. Starting the chapter, we've got 2 new units who join us. Ida is a Wyvern Rider, meaning she can fly like Karen. Her stats are a bit better than Karen's, and she can use both swords and lances, so that's cool. She gets just a tiny bit overshadowed by her brother though, Dean. Dean is a promoted Wyvern Knight, and has good stats, good growths, A weapon ranks, a fuckum of free, and a good unique weapon we'll get later in this chapter. He's one of your best combat options from now on, and he has flyer utility, definitely a must add to your roster. He's also got a cute little personal mechanic where if we ever let Lenoan die or get captured, spoilers, we're gonna get Lenoan in a little bit, he'll leave our army because he's our bodyguard. We have our army star in this central square, and we're gonna have everyone move to guard the walls. The only issue with that is that we'll be within range of the ballistas, so we're gonna try and push through and take them out as well. There's going to be constant reinforcements from all sides, so we gotta be quick about it. The enemy generals, specifically Paulus here, have quite a few authority stars, so if we can send a unit or two to take them out, that could help with our defense a lot. The last unit we get in this chapter is Homer, who we can recruit by visiting this specific house with Nana. He sees her walk in and does the thing that happens when a cartoon character sees a smoking hot babe. Homer's a mage that specializes in light magic, which isn't the best, but it's unique I guess. He works as a backup Asbel. He has Paragon, good growths, and a fuck of 5, so once he's trained up enough, he should be able to act pretty similar to Asbel if you lost him by now. He's just kind of overshadowed by the Asbel that we've been using for half the game now. We're gonna have our units visit at least 3 houses inside Tahra, which is a requirement for his chapter's side quest. A bit random, and I'm not really sure how little Ash Ketchum-kun is supposed to figure this out without a guide, but sure, why not? All the people we talk to are pretty doomer about the situation, which is fair. The entire world is coming to attack Tahra, but you don't have to say it to the only people who showed up to defend your city's face. At least pretend to have a little faith. Once it's the enemy's turn, they'll quickly take out a few key points at the wall and start flooding in. We're able to push them back out on our second turn, and this creates a bit of a standstill, where we kill a few of them on our turn, but their reinforcements come in to replace the casualties. We might not be pushing them back, but at least we're holding. All of this is true except for on Fergus's front, where he kills everyone with the Armor Slayer and Vantage. We then have him push to kill the first general, where he gets a huge crit to one-shot him, getting rid of a nice bonus the attackers had. Just one more leader to take out. He's a little bit more well offended though. We're able to push through enough on the east to take out a ballista with Olwen, then on the west with Callian, who's been getting beefed the fuck up with the help of the Paragon Sword by the way. These ballistas were pretty close to the wall, but the others are going to be a little harder to get to. Fergus charges into the belly of the beast, and we have our Wyvern Riders fly out to support once the southern ballista is gone. With our southern walls more open however due to us sending our troops out, the enemy starts posturing there to try and breach, and Ocean gets a little banged up. This reprieves our northern defenses, and I use the opportunity to promote Finn, which I've been meaning to do for a little bit now. Fergus gets hit by a tornado from the general, which is a bit of a problem. However, he's able to counter with the Armor Slayer and take him out. We take Dean to the house that the general is parked in front of, and he meets Altena, the Princess of Thracia, of all people here. She gives him the Dragon Pike, his personal weapon, which functions like the Brave Lance, except with more damage and less crit. With this in hand, Dean becomes a flying version of Finn. I think you can understand why I like him so much. Edith visits the southeastern house and gets the Nosferatu tomb, which we're instructed to give to Lenoan. It's not technically a personal weapon, but I don't think anyone else has the weapon rank to wield it besides her, unless you super train Homer in this map. Our victory over the Imperial generals is short-lived, however, as the Thracian Wyvern Knights show up. We do overhear their plans, and it sounds like they're going to betray the Empire once they've exhausted themselves. Interesting. Even with this info, we're going to want to look out for them. The Thracians are pretty strong, and can more importantly, fly over our walls. We'll need to tighten our defense a bit. Right after the Thracians show up, the Welkenrosen arrives from the east. This is the Empire's elite Dark Mage division, and I'm going to keep it completely honest with you. I don't want their smoke. We're starting to get pretty crunched in the center here, so they shouldn't have time to reach us before the chapter ends at least. Speaking of which, after 10 turns, Prince Arian of Thracia convinces his lord father to let him try to end the siege. He flies into the city and talks to Lenoan, who's his fiancée by the way, I should have mentioned that earlier. He convinces her that unless Tahra surrenders to Thracia right now, the Welkenrosen will genocide the entire city, and he promises her that no child hunts will happen under Thracian rule. However, Leif and the Liberation Army will not be allowed to stay here, and will have to flee. Lenoan agrees to these terms and intends to go with Leif, vowing to return to Tahra only once the Empire is destroyed. I think we can consider that last battle a draw. We more or less got what we wanted, with Tahra's safety being guaranteed under Thracia. That puts our record at 15-2-1 right now, so I'm not too upset with last chapter's results. It's been a pretty damn good season for Leonster. This next chapter's a weird one. We're heading up north now to siege Leonster Castle, and a bunch of civilians from Tahra have followed us. Escorting them all the way to northern Thracia is impossible, but the least we could do is get them out of this valley. And they need it too. This place is infested with the Welkenrosen and a bunch of Pegasus Knight mercenaries working for them. We need to get them through this winding valley while they try to kidnap them.
Hey guys, today we're gonna be doing a Roblox gameplay. Oh shit.
Well, no one's a cleric, very similar to Safi, except she can fight back. Her Nosferatu tome and 5 fuckum might make you think she could be pretty good in combat, but her defensive stats just do not exist. Much more important is her C rank in staves, and her being the only unit besides Leaf that gets a free promotion. It'll just be a little bit until that happens. That means she basically gets B rank staves for free, and that puts her just 50 weapon XP away from being able to use every staff in the game, except for the personal ones, making her a pretty valuable new member of our staff gang. We use a torch staff and move pretty far up without seeing any enemies. What gives? There's a random chance every turn for enemies to spawn in on specific tiles, and that's where a bulk of our foes will come from. You might have noticed that the Dark Mage here warped in. We're gonna want that. The Dark Mages will spawn in with rewarp staves, which are similar to the warp staff but teleport the user instead of another unit. We can essentially get infinite rewarps here, and I'm gonna try not to go overboard, but definitely take a few. What have I done? We continue riding north to Leonster, but our advisors have a disagreement on how exactly we do that. Darius argues for us to go along the coast, where the Empire will expect us, to create a wind that inspires everyone who hates the Empire to rise up against them. Augustus, on the other hand, suggests that we ride east for the forest, to take the Empire by surprise at Leonster. I'm gonna be honest, I'm completely with Augustus here. We're still a pretty ragtag group that barely survived a direct confrontation with the Empire's full forces, and we only did because their ally betrayed them. I don't want our army to get any weaker before we even get to Leonster. I'm sure the singers will write songs just as pretty about our ambush from the south than if we fought along the coast. Before we decide this though, we need to save this village from bandits attacking north of the mountain range. Never a break for us. We use our flyers to fly Leaf over and send the rest of the squad to the west to attack the bandits there. Looks like this village isn't entirely helpless though. There's 2 green units that show up to fight for him, Amalda and Ralph. We can't recruit Amalda here, she's got her own things going on, but we can get the other guy. Ralph might just be the most generic unit in the entire franchise. He is literally just a guy with a sword who doesn't like bad guys, so he joins the good guys. There is nothing special to him. He's got pretty good stats, pretty good weapon ranks, he's good at combat but not great. Use him if you need more physical fighters in the map. Once we get bored of slapping bandits around, we have Leaf enter the church, and apparently that causes all the bandits to die or retreat or whatever. Priest gives us a restore staff as thanks. Cool. We then get the choice for which path we want to take. This choice will decide what next 2 chapters we play, and we get a few different units depending on where we go. As I said earlier, we're going to listen to Augustus and go through the Mirage Forest. Okay, bit of an ominous title, but I'm sure we'll be fine. Never mind. Turns out there's a secret Loptus temple here. Bishop Reincock here specifically brags about his Berserk staff too. Visiting will put the Berserk effect on one of our units, which will make them attack the weakest unit in range of them, no matter friend or foe. I don't want to deal with this, so we have 2 options. 1. If Tina has at least 6 magic, we can use Ensorcel on her to give her enough magic to steal the Berserk staff. Or 2. We use our flyers to get Asbel within range of him on turn 1, so he attacks him instead, and more than likely dies. Now, I really wish we could do option 1, because it would give us a really funny tool to play with. But I haven't trained her very much yet, so we're just going to throw the magic boy at him. With the Berserk guy out of the way, there's a lot of promoted enemies here, and some of them have pretty cool items. This guy has an extra Vooch for some reason, I'm not really sure where he got that, but cool. That girl we saw talk to Raincock earlier teleports around the map, starting after turn 2. We want Leaf to talk to her. She calls him perfect, just like she expected, and then goes into graphic detail about Leaf's past and how his parents are dead, while some angelic music plays in the background. She trauma dumps for a bit, before Leaf starts feeling guilty and lets her join the gang. I don't know about this one, Leaf. Sure, she's a druid girl with her own theme song, but she looks kinda young. I mean, she's only 12 years old? We gotta stop recruiting children. If the UN finds out about this, we're fucked. Hold on, this gives me an idea. You know, this ratio is actually way better than I thought it would be. Gameplay-wise, Sierra is a very interesting character. First look at her stats, they seem pretty decent for a staff user at this point in the game. We go down to her second page and, oh, that's pretty cool. She's got 5 movement stars. She has Miracle, Wrath, and Paragon. You can get her to level 10 pretty quickly and then promote her for a free A rank staff user. This is all really good. What about her growth rates? Oh, that's very good. Sarah will get A rank staves and max magic and skill stats within a chapter or 2, and that makes her the best staff user from then on, made only better by her 5 movement stars. The only reason to ever not use her in a map from now on is if she's fatigued. Entering the Temple of Leaf has us meet Miranda. She's a princess of Ulster and has been kept here in captivity for the past year, and she blames Leaf for it. Miranda's dad took Leaf in for a bit while he was in hiding, and he died for it. Leaf begs for forgiveness. Miranda says he must retake Ulster for her to forgive him. I mean, I was gonna do that anyways, but sure.
Miranda.
Kinda sucks. There's no two ways about it. Her stats are bad, weapon ranks are bad. The only thing she has going for her is Wrath, and we already have a way to give Wrath to anyone we'd want to. She has good growth rates and promotes into a Mage Knight, so if you just like Miranda, then she probably wouldn't be bad once she's trained up, but there's really not a point to do that this late in the game. There's infinitely better options. By the way, there's hidden warp tiles on this map that'll teleport you to a different place in the forest, so that's cool. Yippee, yay, you can't see him. If you bring Homer to this chapter, you can talk to this guy up here, Shanam. He was chilling with Homer and Tahra at the beginning of chapter 14, and by reuniting them, we can recruit him. Shanam is a literal joke character. He's pretending to be Prince Shannon, who's from the other game, and is really strong. However, Shanam is dog shit. He has a fuckum of 0, meaning he can only crit in the first attack. Really bad stats, especially for a pre-promote, and only a dead as a combat skill, which won't proc often with 8 skill. The only thing that prevents him from being the worst unit in the entire game is his other skill, Bargain. His past as a scam artist has made him the best negotiator in our army, and this reduces prices for him by 50% at all shops. If you ever need to go shopping, Shanam's your guy. With all that recruiting done, we steal a couple cool weapons and make our way out of the forest. Leaving the forest, we find ourselves directly south of Leonster Castle. There's a huge cliff there and a certified fuck ton of ballistas, but we've got the element of surprise, so that's gotta count for something. We've gotta go across a pretty winding path, getting peppered with ballista shots left and right. Sounds pretty bad, right? Sounds like we should bring a small task force in there with my quickest and tankiest units, yeah? Maybe have Tina steal a ballista or two. We'll see. First, we're gonna promote Ocean, and then fly him across the river to take out the soldiers hanging out by the village. Our main force tries to take out the elite archers in the forest, and it's a bit shaky, but we get it done, giving our army the freedom to move up to the cliffs quickly. Before we storm the gates proper, however, we're gonna send Leaf over to visit his people. By having Leaf visit one of the houses in the western village, we talk to the village elder, who's ecstatic at our return. So ecstatic that he volunteers the whole village to help us retake Leonster. They've been secretly stockpiling weapons and are ready to help out. Leaf and Dorius refuse, but the elder talks about how shit life has been under Imperial rule. The women have been taken, the children have been taken, resistors brutally executed, the whole works. Dorius and Augustus are both against this, but leave the decision to Leaf. Without a second of doubt, I immediately recruit my people to die for me. That's right, we're gonna use civilians as shields. We're gonna be what Israel thinks Palestinians are. With a bunch of civilians within view, the ballisticians' bloodlust takes over, and they start raining hell on them, giving my cavalry a free ride into the southern gate. If you don't want to brave the ballistas or send your people to their death, you can also spend 20,000 gold to have this guy open the front gate, letting you charge ballistas straight on, alongside Amalda and her squad, but hey, everything's got pros and cons. Once we pass through the gates, Amalda's squad will activate anyways, and we'll need to hurry. Fergus with a flame sword takes the boss out, and we have Leaf take the gate, ending the chapter before we engage with cavalry. Augustus consults with Leaf about the upcoming battle inside Castle Leonster. The stooge ruling the castle is named Marcus Gustav, a shitty commander who makes up for his faults with money. His troops are all pimped out. More scary is General Xavier, a former Leonster knight who turned code after the Empire took over. But the village elder, wait, the village elder? How are you here? Shouldn't there be like 20 huge bolts in your body? Whatever, glad you made it, pal. He says Xavier submitted to the Empire for the village's sake. A lot of help that did. He's still loyal to Leonster. Upon hearing this, Dorius plans on recruiting him. As with him and his troops on our side, the day would be ours without a doubt. The elder says he has 8 lieutenants, who each have a hostage being held in the castle. They'll all need to be saved before anyone changes sides. With the Liberation Army inside Leonster's walls, the rebirth of the Leonster Kingdom is just one battle away. We split our army into 2 groups. The first to rescue the hostages and have Xavier and his unit rejoin us so we can retake Leonster with minimal bloodshed between brothers. The second group will take control of the eastern half, maybe reclaim some treasure, and just hang out while the hostage rescue team is losing their minds. Why are they losing their minds? Because returning the hostages to their family members is the most unintuitive and bullshit part of the entire game. Each hostage has a knight they need to talk to in order to get them to defect from the Empire. What this ends up leading to is all the hostages and the knights getting stuck in this hallway together, and us having to try and rescue drop them to have the right hostages reach the correct knights in the front. All of this is happening while there are Imperial soldiers that will attempt to kidnap the hostages and run away. If even one is lost, the mission is a failure. To add some even more bullshit on top, once a knight is talked to by their respective hostage, they'll turn into a green unit and will attack and can be attacked by their fellow knights. Thankfully, Xavier doesn't care if the knights kill each other, just that they talk to their family member before dying. Oh yeah, some of the knights have movement stars too, so you can calculate and plan correctly and just get fucked by pure RNG. We're just gonna speed up the footage of this a tad and talk about all the units that we would have gotten if we went on the other route a few chapters ago, along the coast. Ilios is a mage knight that only appears if Olwen's dead. He's pretty similar to Olwen, his personal skills are better, but he can't use the Dire Thunder. He's got a fuck him of 0, so unless you want to give him the Wrath manual, I take Olwen over him. His best asset is probably the items he has on him. The Soul manual and, Meisterschwert? Yeah, Meisterschwert can definitely be used by someone else on your team. The Bolting and Foron could be used well by Olwen, but in order to get them, she's got to be gone, so forget I said anything. Misha is a promoted Pegasus Knight. However, by the time we get her, flying utility isn't as important, and Dean just does it better. Sloof is a priest that starts at A rank staves. That's all you need to know about him. His existence alone makes the A route better than the B route, considering Sarah shows up on both routes. Speaking of Sarah, I promote her here, and she gets max magic and close to max skill. Very nice. Are we done with the Great Hostage Hallway now? Yeah? Okay, good. I didn't prepare for a filibuster. We start moving Leaf over to Xavier so he can recruit and... oh my god. He just killed that child. I just spent an hour trying to get that kid who has the same name as me to talk to his dad or whatever who works for you so you could join my army. You just... kill him? What the fuck? Why did they program him to do that? Well, it's not like my hands are clean of civilian blood either. Leaf, go recruit him. With all of his knights back together with their family, well, most of them are dead. With a few of them back together with their family, he forgoes his oath to the Empire and rejoins the Leonster army. Xavier is honestly not worth all the trouble. If you're not trying to recruit every single unit you can, just skip him. Sure, he's got good defense and good axe and bow rank, but not only are those the two worst physical weapon types in the game, his magic survivability is just really fucking bad. And that's about to become increasingly more important. He's also not worth bringing in outside maps because he walks at about the same pace as a snail. Use him if you need someone to tank physical hits, but that's not exactly something we're desperate for right now. Outside of the Xavier Renegade hostage mission, this chapter is super simple, with his army either dead or on our side now. The boss is a sitting duck, and we use our most trusted strategy to end him. Asbel, go kill. With that battle over, the Kingdom of Leonster is finally reborn. Miranda demands that we go to Ulster next, and Leaf plans to depart immediately. Dorius and Augustus both protest this, but Leaf is a bit higher in his own supply now. Dorius gives in to his lord's demands, and volunteers to lead half of our troops in a vanguard, with Leaf following on the morrow. This conversation causes Leaf to promote, and I think it can speak for itself. Leaf is ready to ride to Ulster. However, news arrives from one of Dorius' men. He reports that the Imperial army slaughtered them. Dorius sacrificed his life so some of them could escape. Augustus demands that Leaf call a full retreat back to Castle Leonster. This opening scene recontextualizes the end of last chapter. Dorius and Augustus both knew that he was charging into his death. His final lesson to Leaf imparted in a way he would never forget. Because of his refusal to see reality for what it is, he lost one of his truest friends and closest advisors. For the rest of the game, we're going to be missing the authority star that Dorius gave us. The best Leaf can do to honor his memory is to never repeat this mistake again. Let's start that now. This chapter is super long vertically, and we have our troops split into two separate groups, one at Castle Leonster and one scattered and trying to escape the Imperial army. This is probably the strongest force we've faced yet in the game. There's a huge number of promoted cavaliers right behind our vanguard that have potential to one-round all but our strongest units. We do have the luxury of choosing which units we want in each group, so if you want to be heartless, you can fill the vanguard with units that are useless to you at this point and leave them all behind by having Leaf retreat to the castle immediately. If you don't want to do this, we can have the bulk of our cavalry be the vanguard and have them retreat northwards until they reach our infantry and defend against the attack together. However, there is one more way. The main two cavalry forces are being commanded by Amalda and Conomer. Amalda is recruited by Sloof, and Conomer is recruited by Miranda, so we're getting Conomer today. We just need to get Miranda there, which is a bit difficult. Just kidding! Now that Sarah's promoted, she can use the warp staff to get her over there immediately. She chastises him a bit, and he joins the Liberation Army, alongside his army. Conomer's alright. There's not too many outside battles left, but he does pretty well in them. Good stats, an action and movement star, A weapon ranks. So why did I just say alright? He has the personal skill Accost, like Dagdar. He likes to get doubled by a ballista. Accost will always make fighting during the enemy phase more risky, so he's less reliable than his mounted cohorts. If we went on the A path, we would have used Sloof to recruit Amalda here instead. She has staves instead of lances, and that makes her a bit better, even at C rank. She also has a depth instead of a cost. Choosing the B path fucks me over one last time. Anyways, having Connor's army take the heat off us is great, because I want to visit all the villages here before the bandits get to them. There's also a bunch of civilians here alongside the vanguard that need rescuing. Must have been the resistance Miranda was talking about earlier. After we finish our turn, we see the Imperial and Ulster army stand off, and it isn't remotely close. The Empire wipes out most of them in the first turn. This guy gets put to sleep and then has a meteor summoned on him. It's disgusting. His one Archknight is able to take out a Moldavo, so that just happened. While the two armies duel, I use the Joestar family technique and have everyone get back to Castle Leonster with no casualties. Once we're back inside, Leif starts wallowing in self-pity before Augustus tells him that he has to steel himself for what comes next, so Dorius' death won't be in vain. Augustus tries to lighten the mood a bit, and mentions there's also some rebellion going on in Isaac right now, led by Seliph, who's the main character of the other game, and also Leif's cousin. He talks of how he carries the legend of his father, Sigurd, and brings hope to a once desolate people. The people clamored for a hero, and crafted Seliph into one. Do you understand? No one chooses to become a hero. They're willed into a hero by the people around them, shaped by the needs of others. Recall that Duke Dorius lost an arm protecting you, and now he's traded his life for yours. Have you ever stopped to wonder why he did that? Why do so many people keep sacrificing themselves for you? Why do so many hail you as a hero? Think on that, and think well.
6 months later.
The Empire's been sieging Castle Leonster for the past half year, and not much has gone on. For us anyways. Selph's already liberated a country in that time, but we're not going to compare ourselves to him. It's bad for your mental health to compare yourself to people your age, especially when they're better than you, more successful, have a better hairline. It's best not to think about it. Anyways, we can't let Selph have all the fun. It's about time we break the siege. The Empire's thinking the same thing too, with them not wanting to be caught from behind by Selph's army while they're still besieging us. They're gonna start storming in. This might seem like a pure defense map, just to let them take the throne, but we actually need to kill the attacking general as well. There's a bunch of cracks in the wall that enemies can break through super easily. This might seem like a problem, but it's actually good for us, so we can get our cavalry outside and on their mounts. I move everyone to get ready for the breach, and I also promote Callian here. He's done well so far, and I think he deserves it. We also have this room of armor knights inside the castle over here. You'd think they're prisoners or something, but they have weapons on them. I'm not really sure how this happened, but the enemy bishops can unlock the doors from afar, so make sure you have a few units there to fight them, or they could cause problems in your backlines. Once the walls have been breached, we can get Fergus and Finn out there, who completely decimate the first line of offense. We're gonna have Finn patrol around and stop any breaches, while Fergus charges straight into the enemy camp. There's a bunch of reinforcements in this battle, by the way. We can get a free silent staff by visiting the house up here, so make sure you have someone do that. Meanwhile, Fergus is deleting the entire enemy front line by himself and is poised to attack the boss next turn. Never mind, there is a ballista in front of him now. Asbel gets brought to 1 health because of the surprise ballista maneuver. After healing him up, we send him in alongside Fergus to neutralize the ballistas. We've also got Leif and Callian on the western flank to support them when more enemy reinforcements arrive. Time to take out the big man. Fergus hits him first with the sleep edge, which we got from the spooky forest a while ago. I use it first so Asbel can follow up and get an easy kill while he sleeps, but Fergus procs Luna, meaning he ignores the enemy's defense stat, making this even easier than I was planning. I'm so confident I don't even use Graph Caliber here, just a basic wind tome, which actually fucks me in the ass because he survives from a lucky Pavise proc. Oh well, he lives for 1 more turn before I have Leif run up and stab him. With the boss out of the way, we just need to deal with a few late coming reinforcements. It can be a little scary, by the way, they do have Meteor. And then, the siege is finally broken. Selph's army shows up, and Castle Leonster stands another day. He sends a messenger, Dermot, who's Nana's long-lost older brother, by the way, who says Seliph now marches to Ulster. Dermot and Nana reunite, and they talk about their mom, who probably died in the desert, and how they'll go find her after the war's over. Dermot then asks if he can join our army, and Leif readily allows him. By the time we wrap up at Leonster, Seliph's already conquered Ulster, so we have a little chat with him and decide to divide and conquer, with us heading to Manster and Seliph going to Connaught. Once Seliph leaves, Leif gushes about how cool he is and how much bigger his army is and he's only a year older and how he'll never be as cool as him. Augustus reassures him by telling him how much he's grown over the past year, and he's sure Leif will be Seliph's equal within a year time. Before we can reach Manster, we'll need to take Fort Danzig. and the battle commences. We start the battle with the new unit we recruited last chapter. Dermot is on the surface, a worse version of Fergus that comes later. Kinda fitting. His personal sword, the Beos sword, is named after his father from the other game. And considering only Dermot and Fergus can use it, it sorta implies that Fergus is a son of Beowulf as well. It's a decent sword. It's funny that it has both Vantage and Wrath, because Vantage sorta overwrites Wrath, with Vantage users not being able to counterattack. If Fergus dies, then Dermot kinda works as a replacement. Just don't expect him to be wiping armies the same way Fergus is in my playthrough. If you don't want him as one of your main combat units, he can still be useful as a support unit because he has Charm as a personal skill. This is finally where Leonster can get promoted, so make sure to bring her. We need her to reach this church all the way over here, so we're gonna have our main squad move that way, and have a smaller task force move southwards to try and deal with the Wyvern problem. We promote Nana to celebrate her finding her brother, and make sure to have all of our units close to Leaf, Nana, and Dermot to take the most advantage of Charm, which we really need here due to all the ballistas. We've seen a lot of ballistas in our journey so far, but this is probably the ballista capital of Thracia. They are just infesting this place. If you stole any bolting tomes, having Owen use them to attack the ballistas could be massive. She might be able to one-shot them if they have low enough max health. I'm not that lucky though. Even with all the evasion buffs, I have 3 separate units get taken down to lethal in subsequent turns. These things are serious. Bringing Leonster over to the church, she talks to this random priest, and he tells her that she actually has holy blood in her. He then offers to awaken the holy blood for her. I'm not really sure what that means, but I'm gonna choose to believe it's not weird. The promotion gives some pretty juicy stat increases, but what we really care about is that staff rank. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. I accidentally block a couple of enemy reinforcements here, so that's cool, but I end up wasting the rest of my Graph Caliber uses on them, so that's less cool. I end up waiting here for a few turns so I can block all the reinforcements and strategize on how I'm gonna tackle this fucking hive here. There are 4 ballistas and 2 long-range magic users all within range of each other. This is gonna be hell. There are ways to safely get through this, like having Tina spam her thief staff, but I think we can all agree this counts as some bullshit. Using the forest and all the charm users I have, I get most of the enemy hit rates to either 1 or sub 10 at least. The boss still has 25%, and that's pretty scary, but I'm lucky enough to dodge it, at least for the first time. We make our way through all the ballistas and have Asbel finish the big man off, and the fort's ours. The Wyvern Riders finally get off their ass. Well, I think they're still sitting on their saddles, but you know what I mean. They come at us, but Leaf ends the chapter before any harm's done. If we ever got any units captured throughout the game, specifically captured, not killed, they would end up in this fort, and we would play a side quest to get them back. Luckily, none of our friends are in prison right now, so we move straight on, continuing our way to Manster. Before we can make it to Manster, we'll have to cross the Great River Thracia, not only the biggest river in the peninsula, but also the source of northern Thracia's fertility and wealth. This is where the biggest imperial army still in Thracia is stationed, so deploy the strongest army you can muster. We're finally fighting Reinhardt, Owen's famous brother that we've heard so much about. We would have seen him a bit more if we went on the A route, and it also would have resolved Kemp's storyline. Yeah, remember him? Me neither. Look at how long this video is already. I do not want to go back and do those 2 chapters. We're just gonna headcanon that in my playthrough, Kemp died of dysentery while retreating from Fort Dandrum. Can we all agree to this? Good. Back to Reinhardt. He's actually a breakout star from this game. He got put into Heroes, which is a Fire Emblem gacha game, pretty early on, and apparently he was the strongest character in the game by far. Gacha games aren't my wheelhouse, so strong chance I'm talking out of my ass here, but for the 3 cursory Google searches I've done on the topic, it seems like he was the meta character for several years, which is crazy because there's over 1,000 of these guys. That's enough meta talk though. In game, he's got ludicrous stats, 5 of 40 stars, 5 movement stars, all these fucking skills. This might be the last major Imperial army in Thracia, but if this guy's commanding it, it's still a threat. He talks about Owen for a bit and wishes he could talk to her. The person he's talking to, Sias, agrees. He's the guy who saved Marita half the game ago, if you don't remember by the way. Speaking of insane fucking stats, Sias has 10 of 40 stars. 10! There's not even enough room to display all of them, he's fucking Zukov maxing out here. Never mind Reinhardt, this guy's the real tactical mastermind. Thank all the fucking gods that the Empire didn't send this guy out against us or Seliph sooner. We'd be dead! He's more than twice the tactical mind than anyone else in the game. What the fuck? Combining this with Reinhardt and the other boss who's just some other guy, we don't really care about him, the enemies have a total of 19 of 40 stars. That's a 57% increase to hit rate and avoid. Remember last chapter when we were charm maxing? Why am I writing this so much for this chapter? What's happened to me? And we were dealing with 1% chances to hit us? That's not happening here. We're gonna have to play this smart to win this battle. This is going to be the battle that decides the fate of Thracia. What's the plan? First, we're gonna have Owen warp over to Reinhardt and see if we can talk him out of this or something, because I really do not want to fight him here. According to Augustus, this is the hardest place to attack in all of Thracia. Great. Awesome. If we can't convince Reinhardt, then I'm gonna slowly send my units down to fight the scattered troops on this side of the river and try to take out the ballista square down there. We're gonna need either a long-range tome or a flyer to take out these back two ballistas, so that'll be fun. Once we secure this side of the bank, we're gonna try to make a rush for these forts and defend from there. Hopefully we'll be able to grind the Gelbenritter down, and maybe even take out Reinhardt, which would be huge for us. Once that's done, the battle should be all but won, and we can take the fort with ease. Now, that's a lot easier said than done, and it wasn't even that easy to say, I just said a lot of shit just now. Olwen, go convince your brother to defect. Reinhardt assumes that Olwen's come back to join him, but she refuses until all the children are rescued from the hunts she unwittingly participated in. Reinhardt tries to convince her, but she's resolute in her new convictions. Reinhardt refuses to take the boot out of his mouth, so the two siblings are diametrically opposed. But he's proud of the woman she's become and has one last gift for her, the Blessed Sword. The next time the siblings meet will be as enemies, and I don't think Owen wins those, so I warp her back over here. Well, that was a bust. Sword's pretty nice though. I guess we gotta go to Plan B. Wait, never mind, Plan B's in the trash too now. Because we warped Olwen over there, we've activated a trap from Sias where he collapses the bridge. It's supposed to happen with the bridge behind us, so I guess it's good we sprung it here. This also makes the generic boss warp Sias away, because he's his stepdad or something, and he doesn't want him to die here. It takes care of 10 of the authority stars, instantly making this battle a lot more doable for us. We take a pretty slow approach down the riverbank, and tragedy strikes when I mess up the math, and Fred dies to a ballista. Sorry, Fred heads. Even with charm and supports, the ballistas are still getting around 50% hit rate on us, so we're gonna need a new approach. I steal this guy's Paragon Sword for the defensive buff it gives, and hand it to Fergus and run him in there. With his already high defenses and the boost from the Paragon Sword, he should be able to survive at least one round against all the ballistas. This ends up a little unnecessary, because they all shoot a leaf and don't hit him a single time. For the record, even if they all hit him, he would have survived. There wasn't any strategy on their part, they just hated his ass. With Fergus in position to take out the ballista, I warp Dean into the ballista square because his wyvern allows him to be warped onto any terrain. After killing one of them, he's now too close to the ballistas to be aimed at, making the bishops the only thing he has to worry about. The bishops do a lot of damage to Dean, but the one next to him won't attack out of fear of retaliation, and the far one can't one round us, all according to Kaikaku. Fergus and Dean mop up the ballistas and bishops, which lets our main forces enter the area. We get a warp staff from his house, and he tells us to just warp across the river. I don't know if I want to waste that many warp charges, but thanks for the suggestion. And the staff. Mainly the staff. With this side of the river fully secured, and the bridge out, it's time for Operation Ferry. We're gonna have Dean and Karen ferry all of our units across. This is gonna take a while. Just kidding. We start landing, and the enemy immediately starts charging us. I can't believe it. They're not just gonna wait there until I walk into their range. They're actually gonna fight me on their own terms? Shit, this Reinhardt guy is a good leader. Well, good luck, Ocean. There's only like 30 units coming at you right now, including Reinhardt. I'm truly at a loss for words at this point. Reinhardt misses a 62% chance to hit twice in a row, hits a 2% chance to use his adept skill, letting him attack 2 more times, which he misses both, and then finally Ocean gets to attack, except he misses a 79. Twice. If both my math and understanding of what just happened is right, there was a 0.00018% chance of this happening. What the fuck? I can't believe they're both alive. At this point, I'm completely flabbergasted and give up on Operation Fairy completely, with the entire Gelbraider waiting on the other side of the river to jump me, and the dual fated plot armor going on there too. So I've got two ideas. Either I send Ocean back in there because apparently he can go toe-to-toe with Reinhardt, or I warp Fergus to the castle and hope he can one-round the boss, then warp Leaf there to complete the chapter, completely circumventing the Empire's strongest division in their army. These are my two remaining choices. You know things aren't going well for me. I decided to go for the warp plan because it seems significantly more feasible, and it would be really funny if I just end up not fighting the strongest force the Empire has left in Thracia. I'm sure they won't just attack me from behind, right? Anyways, I warp Fergus in and holy shit, he crit him. It's over. The day's ours. Leaf gets warped to the castle, and the chapter is completed. This is the last appearance of Reinhardt in the game, because he normally gets either killed or captured here, but I don't know. I guess in my playthrough's canon we can say he surrendered after he realized he's stuck between the river and the fort. Maybe he escaped and found wherever Kemp ran off to, and they became a comedy duo, or started a bakery or whatever. At least Olwen's happy her brother's not dead. With the defeat of Reinhardt, kind of, nothing stands in between the Liberation Army and Manster. It's time for our revenge against Raedric. This is the last chapter that takes place outside, so be sure to use all your cavalry units while you still can. We arrive at Castle Manster and see Ced still rescuing kids. It's been half a year since we saw a guy, and he's still doing it. That's commitment right there. He meets Sias, who offers to help him save the kids, and he also gives him the Bragi's Blade, which is a magical sword that is the only thing that can break through Raedric's dark, evil, fucked up defensive magic. Only those with holy blood can wield it, and Ced wants Sias to get it to Leaf. This chapter is a nice breather after the huge battle we had last time. We start the chapter with Sias recruited. Sias is a priest with an A rank in staves and warp in his inventory. Great stats, 3 of 4 stars. Wait, 3? What happened to the other 7? Did that warp give him brain damage or something? Can't have shit in Thracia. Whatever, we're gonna have him take out one of these ballistas and have everyone else inch their way up towards Castle Manster. Having Sias attack the ballista actually had a secondary use. Having one of your units move within this square will cause Ced to activate on the following enemy turn, where he'll murk the boss and then start destroying every other unit near the castle. These are all promoted units and they can't do shit to him. It's insane! Ced plays the chapter for us, and I fly Leaf up there to talk to him. While we have Sias now, he'll leave if we recruit Ced here. I'm not really sure why this happens outside of balance reasons, but we gotta live with it. So if you want Ced, recruit him normally. If you want Sias, rescue and move Ced out of the way, and just have Leaf seize normally. Now, obviously, we want Ced, so we're gonna talk to him. Leaf starts moping to him, but Ced tells him to wake up and see all that he's done. Yeah, he couldn't take Manster the first time he was here, but he's come back after liberating the rest of Northern Thracia, with an army to boot. Next, we're gonna talk to Sias, so we can get the Bragi Blade from him, and we're also gonna take the rest of his shit while we're at it. If you're not joining, I'm gonna make sure your wallet does, bud. We seize the chapter, and Sias fucks off to go pray on the other side of the continent. The Siege of Manster has begun. We're back inside Manster, and Augustus has us divide our army into 3 groups. The first to go fight Raedric, the second to rescue the children and do a secret second mission, ooh, and the third group will take care of the dark wizards hanging out in that room over there. I've shown glimpses of it, but these final 3 chapters are going to show you what advanced staff warfare really looks like. First turn, we instantly neutralize almost all of Shadow Dark Wizard Money Gang. I even silenced these guys with the restore staves up here because I forgot that they need to be next to the guy they want to restore. I'm hitting enemies who don't even matter out here. We specifically put status effects on them that make it so they can't use magic, so then we can get in there and steal their shit later. We want our main group to take space very, very slowly here, because there's a unit we can recruit who is super scary. Gauss is up here, who we saw all the way back in our first visit to Manster, has 5 movement stars. This makes him really hard to recruit, because sometimes he'll just move twice in a turn, and kill you when you thought you were out of range. We're going to be waiting a while on Team Save the Children anyways, and with the Shadow Wizard silenced, there's not much of a threat to us taking it slow. Team Save the Children has to take care of all these wizards who aren't that scary. They have pretty low hit, but they will kidnap and escape with the kids, so we gotta hurry on that front. Once the kids are safe, they'll start moving towards the exit to the top left, except for one specific kid who secretly has a key that we need for a super special side objective. The kids have 2 movement by the way, so unless you want to wait an actual year, get ready to rescue train, buddy. Galzus finally decides to approach us and procs a movement star. Welp, it was nice knowing you, Xavier. Oh wait, he just captured him. I guess there's a heart somewhere under that rough, edgy boy exterior after all. Marita talks to him, and after he saved her from the Shadow Blade, she realized that he was her father. When she was young, slavers had captured her while Galzus was away momentarily, and he had never forgiven himself for that, and assumed that Marita had hated him for it. Marita mentions that Ivel is the one who saved her from the slavers, and Galzus defects from Raedric's payroll to pay his debt to her for saving his kid. Galzus is the best physical fighter in the game. He has max stats, great personal skills, 5 action stars, and a fuck'em free. He'll probably kill anything in 1 round of combat. He obviously comes in really late, but you have no reason not to deploy him in these last few battles. With the rest of his sellswords dead, I send Leaf in to take Raedric on, 1-on-1. The Bragi Blade is super effective against armored units, alongside nullifying Raedric's magic shield. Here's Leaf with the Bragi Blade, and Sed with Forseti for comparison. Raedric does have Bevice though, which blocks one of my hits, and I get a little scared that Raedric wins these. On enemy phase though, Leaf locks in and remembers how to hit people with a sword. With that, the Fiend falls, begging for his life till the very end. With Raedric dead, let's get back to Team Save the Children. All the Dark Mages here are dead, and the kids are slowly walking to freedom with their tiny, pitiful legs. After 500 turns, this kid falls into the door or something and breaks it open. I don't know why we couldn't do this, I guess the kid had Crusader blood or something. Inside the door, we find a chest with the Kia staff in it. Let's take a look at this. Oh hey, Kia Stone. I know someone who could use that. Pretty sure they're around here somewhere too. You might have noticed this tiny room in the top right corner. This is the secret shop, and the only way to get here is to either warp or rewarp up here. I filled Galzus with some shit to sell and sent him up there, and oh, I forgot to get the member card. We needed to make sure all of Xavier's soldiers survived to get this. I'm not going back to do that. Leaf and Augustus discuss the battle and how Raedric's body just disappeared after we killed him. Augustus says there's a secret lobster temple hidden underneath the castle, and this seems like some satanic magic bullshit. We also talk about Veld, who's the Lobster Church's lead cardinal or whatever in Thracia. He's also the bald guy who turned Ivel to stone. Sarah says, hey, I can use the staff, also the leader of the Lobster Church is my grandfather, lol. We find ourselves deep in the catacombs of Manster, and it is dark as shit down here. Are lamps sacrilege to Loptis or something? Probably. Dumbass fucking god of darkness. Grow up, man. You're too old to be doing this shit. We want staff getting out in full force here, alongside a thief and a few combat units. I'm also bringing Marty, because it's funny. I need a fucking audit. We start the chapter in 2 groups, and Augustus informs us that there are invisible traps, all of the Mirage Forest from chapter 16. Except instead of teleporting you to another location in the forest that's usually pretty safe, these send you straight to an execution chamber. This is 100% some Thracia bullshit. Even if you're playing this blind, which you definitely are, you are 90% of the way through a several hour long review of it, this is just for argument's sake, I would use a map here that tells you where the teleports are. Otherwise there's just a random chance your unit is going to die, unless you have a free rescue staff available on the turn they teleport. First move we make, Sed is going to rewarp himself right below the escape point. That's a lot of enemies. Are we really going to have Sed kill them all? No. Sed warped here so we can have vision on them, and then we're going to have staff game put statuses on them before they can status us. Sed's still going to kill a bunch of guys though. There's a fuck ton of reinforcements in this map that come with warp and rewarp staffs on them, and if Sed's in the central escape room, they'll come at him. We've got very little to worry about though. Sed has high avoid and high magic, so unless a Hell hits, and Hell should always have a super low hit rate, he'll be fine. I don't know if editing me has shown this yet, because I write before I edit, but if I haven't, Hell is such a cool looking spell. It rules so hard. This is also the last map where we'll have to worry about fatigue, as the next map is the last. Keep in mind how many units will get fatigued here, and how many stamina drinks you have, so no one important sitting out in the finale. I use Berserk on the boss here, but it actually backfires on me. The enemies are allowed to target an enraged ally, and because they're dark mages, when they hit, they inflict poison. This poison overwrites the Berserk status, so it's a bit of a waste. I end up resorting to old reliable, silence and sleep. After getting everyone through this long ass hallway, Leaf smacks these axemen of the Kingmaker a bunch of times, and we make it to the chamber where Ivel's statue is being held. Sarah uses the Kia staff on her, and she breathes once more. We can talk to her with Leaf or Marita to re-recruit her, and she has a nice conversation with Leaf about how far he's come and grown since they've last seen each other. We slowly funnel all of our units through this snaky ass hallway, and we need to fill the central room to stop enemies from warping in. This shit is tedious and added like an extra 20 minutes to the chapter. Once we loot the silenced bishops and escape, Leaf and Ivel continue their conversation where Leaf thanks Ivel for watching over him and giving him a semblance of childhood. And even though there was no blood shared between them, Ivel was the mom who stepped up. The rest of the Fiana Freeblades all talk to Ivel, and it's some cute shit. It ends with Galzus talking to her, where he thanks her for raising Merida and gives her official custody of her, and Ivel makes him promise to visit at least once a year. Now that Avel's safe and with us again, we have one more job left to do. Rid Thracia of the Leonster cult once and for all. This is it, the final challenge. We're gonna send everything we've got here. I equip everyone with the best weapons and staves I have left, and I also finally make use of Shanam here, and have him sell a bunch of these useless dark tomes. I don't really need the money, but I wanted Shanam to feel like he did something for us, so I bought an axe too. The chapter begins with Manfroy, Sarah's grandfather and supreme leader of the Loptis Church, grilling out Veld for failing to kill Leif thus far. He also reveals that Veld was the one behind the death of Leif's father, and the beginning of the war between Manster and Thracia 15 years ago. Veld informed Trevant where Leif's father would be, and set into motion the Thracian Peninsula's collapse into a decade of war and strife. I already didn't like these guys from the whole devil worshipping and child holocaust, but they are really padding out the list here. Did you kill Santa too, Manfroy? Did you? Veld defends his failures to kill us by pointing out how we took out most of House Friege's power, which would be the only military power that could oppose the church if we lose here. That convinces Manfroy to give Veld one last chance, and he gives him 5 dead lords. Undead warriors, loyal to Loptis, risen from soldiers who once fought the Empire. Veld's like, oh shit, I just finished making one of those. Now I've got 6. We return to Leif and Augustus, who discuss the strategy. We've divided our force into 6 groups of 3. Each group is tasked with taking down a separate dead lord and then standing on the altar. Once the dead lords are put back in their graves, and we have people standing on all 6 altars at the same time, the seal upon Veld's chamber will be broken, and we can take the fight to him. We've got to be quick though. Reinforcements will begin showing up after turn 5, so we need to make these turns count. The first thing we want to do is neutralize the dark mages in the dead lord rooms, either through death or using staves. They've got nasty long-range magic, and we'll probably be able to kill at least one of our units if we don't deal with them now. Afterwards, we set to work on killing the dead lords. The dead lord Leif faces is a reanimated version of Raedric, and the rest of the dead lords will either be generic units or reanimated versions of these 5 units if they die, get captured, or we fail to recruit them. This is where staff warfare gets crazy. The rooms at House of Dead Lords give every unit inside plus 10 magic, so we won't be able to use status effects on them easily, unless we boost ourselves first. We also need to open them, and we don't have that many door keys left, so Tina with our unlocked staff will be needed here. Leif faces down Raedric once more, after taking a couple of unlucky exits. Raedric takes the first hit, but afterwards, it's not even close. Leif destroys Raedric once again, and the Baron of Treachery is put down once more, this time to never return. Asbel gets brought down to 1 HP, but follows up with a crit, taking down his dead lord. Ced dodges both the attacks thrown his way, and retaliates with a crit, one-shotting his dead lord. Wow, Ced, you really have to show Asbel up like that? Some mentor you are. Xavier fights bravely, and gets a nice crit to bring the dead lord low, but unfortunately, the dead lord procs Luna, tearing through Xavier's defense and killing him. Wow, it was not worth wasting that hour to recruit him. Galzus gets berserked here, but I decide to use this to my advantage. I warp my units next to him out, unlock the door, and cast sleep on the dead lord in front of him, having the berserk finish the fight for me. Funny that this dead lord has a berserk sword, but he dies to berserk in a completely separate way. Fergus fights against his dead lord, and I get super scared because they go down 1 HP, but with their Nosferatu tome, a hit against me would drain my health and heal them nearly to full. Luckily I miss it and Fergus is able to clutch it out, even with another miss. I warp Nana to the chamber where Ced is standing, so Ced can then warp himself to the chamber with the last dead lord in it and take him out. Ced dodges his blows and wipes him out, cleansing the earth of the undead. With all the altars activated, the door to Veld's hideout is open, and now we face our final foe. Veld has a massive 80 HP and wields his personal tome, Petrify. However, he only has 20 magic. Only 20? Isn't that maxed out? I hear you say. However, if you recall to a few minutes ago, this chapter has unique terrain that can boost units' magic by 10, and that includes our own units. So if we have one of our units stand on the terrain and then either drink a pure water or have ensorcel used on them, they would have 17 magic added to their magic stat, meaning a unit only needs 4 magic to use status staves on Veld. But we're not going to apply status effects. No. That would be too simple. Too easy. I have one last card up my sleeve. A small, child-shaped card. I want to humiliate this bald bastard after what he's done to Ivel and the Thracia as a whole. We're gonna have Tina warped into the magic room, then have Ced warp beside her to cast Ensorcel, and then we're gonna have Tina use the Thief Staff on Veld to take every single thing from him. While this is happening, Asbel uses the Blizzard Tone to make his lackeys fall asleep, and Sarah uses Silence on the ones with low magic. Ocean also demolishes all the physical guards. With the remaining enemies dead, asleep, silenced, or disarmed, we're free to walk in there and capture them. There's no reason for me to do this. There's not an extra chapter or a secret ending for keeping Veldrin's inner circle alive. I want them to be humiliated by losing to a little girl and her silly thief staff. I want them to suffer much longer than a single death can bring them. Maybe then, they'll learn the value of a life and the tragedies their actions have caused. Feld tries his best to avoid the inevitable, and grabs a hell tome from his silent Tomie over here, which might scare me if I didn't still have the small thieving magic child hanging out a bit to the left. He doesn't even hit me. Nice try, idiot. Like that's gonna save your life or your dignity. We capture him and his fellow Dark Priest, and the battle ends, with the monster masquerading as human in our custody. The curse put over these catacombs by the Dark Mages is lifted, and the color palette and layout is restored to a much more natural state. Leif and Augustus have one final chat over everything they've accomplished. They've pushed the death cult of Loptis out of Thracia. Through the perseverance and strength of Leif, and the tactics and teachings of Augustus, he taught Leif how to both lead an army and lead his people, through being forced to see the perspective of the downtrodden and those who have been fucked over by both the Empire and the feudal lords before it. Leif asks Augustus to stay by his side and remain his advisor even after the war is won, which Augustus, of course, accepts. Finn reports that Seliph has taken Connaught and killed King Bloom of House Frege, ridding all Imperial influence in Thracia. Leif asks Finn how he could repay him for protecting him for his entire life, and Finn simply asks Leif to take the throne of Thracia. Houses Ulster, Connaught, and Manster all have no surviving male heirs after 15 years of Imperial rule. Leif has a chance to unite Northern Thracia after centuries of petty infighting between the noble houses. Uniting the kingdom was Leif's father's dream, and Finn's as well. Leif accepts this duty. Ivel and the Freeblades plan to head back to Fiana to protect it from pirates, but Leif makes Ivel promise he'll return to see Leif again once the Empire is completely defeated.
Miranda.
It says that as the last two noble heirs in Northern Thracia, all of her advisors are telling her to wed Leif to fully unite the kingdom. Leif does this, and goes over to Nana and asks to marry her instead. Nana accepts, but before these two lovebirds can go any further, Seliph arrives to reinforce Leif's army. A little late though, we just won 3 battles inside this castle. The late Lord Seliph asks Leif to join his forces in his rebellion against the Empire, and a vow of lifelong friendship beside it. Leif readily accepts, and they join hands to deliver the world from the evil of Loptis. With that, Leif's battle is ended, yet the war for the future of Jugdral has just begun. The game's over though. The rest of the war is in the other game. Maybe I'll talk about it someday. Not now though. Today is Leif's Day. Leif Day. Like Canada. With the game done, we get a nice epilogue that tells us what happens to each of our units after the events of the game. Leif becomes king of a united Thracia, alongside his long-lost sister, Altena, the princess of Thracia. He marries Nana, and she becomes the queen, although the common people still call her princess due to her beauty. The full epilogue is something like half an hour long. It's actually crazy how long it is. Almost as crazy as how long this video is. Here's a few highlights. All these guys immediately fucked off and disappeared from the history books. Ocean had a ton of kids and then became a stereotypical angry old village man. Robert died for us, but if he didn't, he would have become a royal guard and had autistic boy Riz. Fred died too, but if he didn't, he would have married a child and gotten clowned for it. Owen married, who the history books call the middest man of all time, to the shock of all onlookers. Glade stopped the financial crisis. Sleuth started Mormonism. Ilias fucked up his government job so bad that his district was mismanaged into ruin. Ralph became a based trad husband farmer. And finally, Sarah lived a peaceful life under Leif's protection, which I think is nice. And that's Thracia 776. A swan song to the Shozo Kaga era of Fire Emblem games, and just such an ambitious project. This game has no right to exist, being a mid-quel released half a console generation too late, but I'm so happy it does, man. A really beautiful story about a group of people who are able to defy the apparent coming of a dark age, and fight to keep hope alive and inspire the masses to believe in something greater than them, instead of shrinking into despair. And the experimental gameplay paid off really well. Every Fire Emblem that came after this has been heavily inspired by it one way or another, with mechanics like rescuing and side quests becoming mainstays in the franchise, and all the mechanics that stayed exclusive to Thracia just give it more unique flavor in an ever-growing series. Not to get too boomer and doomer, but you really couldn't make a game like this now. People would say, hey, that's Fire Emblem Thracia 776. Someone already made that. At least you couldn't make it in the AAA space. There's probably a Thracia tier indie game that comes out every financial quarter. Thank you for watching this long and bloated love letter to a one-of-a-kind game that I feel has nowhere near the recognition it deserves. I hope you care about it at least a little bit now. Here is my character tier list, here's my chapter tier list, and here are the free numbers on the back of my credit card. I hope you can't do anything with those numbers because they're real. Okay, bye now. Bye-bye.